I'd like to call to order the Charter Township of Chesterfield Regular Township Board meeting for Tuesday, October 8th, 2024 at 7 p.m. to order. Could we all stand, face the flag, and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Berry, would you call the roll?
Supervisor Kersten.
Here.
Treasurer Elliott.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee DeMink.
Hi. Here.
Trustee Vosberg.
Here.
Clerk Berry is here.
Item 4, approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve the
Support.
agenda as presented, supported by Trustee Joseph. When you're ready.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee DeMink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 5, presentations. We do have a presentation tonight. Director Bassett, the microphone is yours.
Sorry about that. Thank you. This evening I wanted to read the oath of office as well as introduce our newest chaplain. In our careers, public safety, we end up dealing with critical incidents and those affected by critical incidents. And a big piece of that for us is having somebody who could help those after. And that's a big piece of our chaplain program and something that Kim is going to be willing to do. But also, as importantly, hopefully, the typical individual deals with critical incidents a few times in their life. Our officers go to hundreds of critical incidents, and they have to manage that stress and learn how to deal with that. And our chaplain program is also a part of that, and Kim is going to be a resource for those officers to try and manage and handle that critical incident stress as that comes along. With that, I'd like Kim to step up here, and I'm going to read a couple things and try and keep up here. You can cheat if you want. I, Kim Fleece,
I, Kim Fleece,
promise to serve and support and counsel
promise to serve, support, and counsel
to the officers and staff of the Chesterfield Police Department.
to the officers and staff of the Chesterfield Police Department.
I will conform to all law enforcement procedures,
I will conform to all law enforcement procedures,
rules, and regulations
rules, and regulations
of the Chesterfield Police Department.
of the Chesterfield Police Department.
I will always be available for duty to the best of my ability.
I will always be available for duty to the best of my abilities.
I will hold all information I receive during my duties as a chaplain in full confidence.
I will hold all information I receive during my service as chaplain to the best of my abilities. Close enough.
I will be a moral and inspirational advisor to the officers
I will be a moral and inspirational advisor to the officers
and staff of the Chesterfield Police Department.
and staff of the Chesterfield Police Department.
I will carry the chaplain badge of the Chesterfield Police Department
I will carry the badge of the Chesterfield Police Department
with honor and humility
with honor and humility
while maintaining high standard of ethical and moral values, whether on duty or off.
with honor and humility while maintaining high standard of ethical and moral values, whether on duty or off.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And if it's okay with you, Supervisor, I'd like Kim to just say a couple things.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. I'm so very humbled and proud to serve our officers that I already have a few of them near and dear to my heart, and then this community as well. So I'm here. My number is with dispatch. My number is with Chief and Captain. So if you need anything, please let me know, and I'm here to serve any way I can. Thank you for allowing me to do this.
Thank you.
Cap McNair, are they gonna, is there a ceremony back at the police station? Or- Okay. If the group wants to excuse themselves to the hallway, you can. You don't have to stay. Item 6, department reports. There are department reports tonight. Trustee Joseph, you want to start?
We're going to share the public safety meeting. Trustee Anderson will start us off.
Yeah, thank you. You've already met Chaplain Fleece, who's been appointed as our chaplain for our police department. I'm going to kind of address some of the personnel issues. The police department is down 5 officers right now. We've had recently a resignation retirement, so they're looking at filling those positions. Jumping down, you're going to have a lot to report here, David. The fire department open house is this Saturday, October 2024, I believe, 12 to 3, if I'm correct, at the right time. And I'll leave the rest to you.
So we have a couple of issues that'll be coming before the board at our next board meeting. Some analytics software for the fire department. This is part of the accreditation process that we are still kind of ongoing. That is anticipated to be a 24-month process from beginning to end, and we're on schedule there. We have some pretty exciting training for the fire department. The MSP dive team is working with our firefighters, and we have 9 staff that will be attending the dive team training. As Trustee Anderson mentioned, we anticipate the need for 5 additional officers in part because of some retirements and an unexpected resignation. The building renovation is moving along, as we heard from Josh, our F&O director, last board meeting. The amount of work over there is just an intense amount of work to shore up the building, to strengthen the building, tighten the building. It's really not just an aesthetics makeover. If you've gone over or you see the building from Town Center, you know that the outside, I don't know what you call it, Josh. It looks like the exoskeleton on the outside that is there to hold all of the panels for the exterior are sort of, they kind of pale in comparison to the beams and things that are inside structurally to tighten the building. So in spite of the immense amount of work, the project is going as planned. DTE and some electrical issues have pushed us back a little bit, but the project is going very, very well. I think the initial plan was to have the exterior completed before we started on some of the interior, but they've made decisions that they can do those things together. They have pushed back a couple of the interior projects, specifically issues with kitchen renovation may go back, pushed out a little bit further. We got a great presentation from Captain McNair and also Director Bassett on our new chaplain, and what an impressive lady she is. She is, as you saw from the audience that came to support her tonight, she is very active in her church, is quite involved with the Rock Church, and we had a number of their parishioners here tonight in support of her. As Trustee Anderson mentioned, the police fire department open house is this Sunday from 12 to 3, and the department is working closely with the Southeast Michigan Chamber for sort of a post North Gratiot Gratiot cruise recaps, or an after action to look at what worked, what didn't work, and how they can make that better next year. We will have a brief presentation at our next board meeting. The Friends of Chesterfield Police will be awarding their Volunteer of the Year, we'll make that presentation. I'll submit an agenda request to add that to our presentation at our next board meeting. Thank you, sir.
Clerk Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I just want to update the board and the public as far as the upcoming election that will take place 4 weeks from today. Early voting for this election does begin on October the 26th at 8 a.m. at the Community Center, which is our early voting site. All precincts will vote early at that location, and then you will vote at your assigned precinct location on Election Day. Absentee ballots have been mailed. If you've been expecting an absentee ballot and have not received it, please contact the clerk's office and we will find out what happened to that ballot for you. If you failed to request one, you can request one up until just before Election Day. Again, contact the clerk's office, refer to the voter guide that is now available online or hard copy in our office. This week, last couple of weeks since our last board meeting, the clerk's office has been very busy in elections. We have obviously been processing absentee ballots, but we have also been doing a tremendous amount of community outreach, specifically to our senior community, who often does not get the updated information regarding elections when they are in senior housing facilities and such. So we have made visits to a couple of those facilities in the last couple of weeks and done presentations and assisted residents there with voter registrations, absentee ballot applications, and resolving any issues. Oftentimes our senior population has challenges with being in facilities that are not their regular residences, or perhaps they have adult children who are handling their mail and they need to understand that those ballots are not forwarded. So what we do is we help them with all of those special circumstances, as well as all of the special resources available to voters who have disability issues. So those are just some of the things that we helped them with in the last couple of days at 2 of our senior facilities. We also had a very successful event, our Safe and Secure Elections event over at the Community Center. Prosecutor Lucido, as well as County Clerk Anthony Forlini, were in attendance. Supervisor Kersten stopped by, and we appreciate that. And we had a very, I think, meaningful presentation to the folks that showed up there to ensure that and allow the public to be confident that we are conducting Chesterfield elections in a way that everyone is safe and that the ballot and the vote integrity is secured. So I think those were all very positive developments over the last couple of weeks. This upcoming week, we do have our public accuracy test. For those who are concerned about the voting machines and tabulators that we use to count the votes here in Chesterfield, you can actually see those machines tested publicly this Thursday here at the township offices, and that it will occur at, Trustee Anderson would probably know this too, 10 a.m. 10 a.m. on this Thursday, we will be conducting a test of all of the machines that we use for tabulation purposes. That is open to the public. Public is welcome to attend. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you. Just some quick comments from myself. Just to follow up on what Trustee Joseph had indicated, the North Gratiot Cruise was a great success again this year. I'd like to thank the Southeast Chamber, particularly John Johnson, Joe Baller, the Southeast Chamber staff, along with our own Parks and Recs and Seniors Department, who helped coordinate that event. That is a growing event. I think we're in year 15, and we actually outdid some southern communities that were trying to host a cruise and a car show on the same day. I'd like to congratulate Sergeant Paul Kaspersky, who retired last week. Paul started back when I was, shortly after I arrived. He's been a great asset to this department. He's one of the vacancies that's already been mentioned. And as already stated, provisions are underway to make sure that those staffing positions are filled. The board, I hope all of you received my email on the HR director status, the search for that candidate. And then also, by the end of this week, the board will be receiving the final draft of our proposed budget for 2025 for consideration at the next board meeting. If you have any questions, again, Vicki is available to discuss any of those topics or issues that you may have. We made some slight adjustments today, but The draft will be forthcoming hopefully by the end of the week. That ends my comments. I will move on to item 7, public comments on agenda items only. Pardon me? Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm actually doing a report for our code enforcement. So this is an update on the retention detention ponds. So one of our code enforcement officers was assigned to find all of the retention detention ponds that are located in Chesterfield. These are not ones that the township maintains. These are all maintained either by a homeowners association or the developer. So 13 of them have been cleared out, and we believe that this will help with flooding. We just have some before and after pictures that we wanted to go through to show everyone the great job that our code enforcement officer did go and get these cleared out. So this is behind doctor's office. This one is on 23 Mile near CVS. This one is near Birchwood. Here's another one near Iris Drive, and you can see that there's a pretty huge difference. This one is by Michael's, and this one is near 7-Eleven and Schaefer's Run. And then just thank you so much, Gary DeMaster, and Jean is actually the one who went out and got these cleared up for us.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Karen. Josh?
Thank you. I just wanted to go through a couple slides, give an update on some of the projects that we're doing. This picture here is our police department, as Trustee Joseph mentioned earlier. Kind of a complicated project, but in the end, we're trying to make something complicated look really simple. We're just excited about this photo. We're finally to the point where we're putting on some steel panels. So this picture was taken today, and as you can see, this is the back of the building by the truck well. You can see the corrugated panels going on the bottom, and then that piece that you see above, that's actually a blue stripe that runs around the whole building. We just leave the panels covered, the decorative panels, until the end. They'll pull off all the film. So this will be an ongoing process over the next couple weeks. As they get the panels, we'll start working our way around. This side of the building is pretty simple because there's not much action, or people don't see much, so these panels are real simple. But as you get to the other sides, they become a little bit more detailed and a little bit more intricate. So we're really looking forward to it. As this process unfolds, we'll try to come to the board and give you some visuals if you don't have a chance to get out there. This next, sorry, just a quick video. This is across the hall, our new construction project. It's just a short snip. For those of you who have been in that office before, you can remember that that wall to the left was just a consistent steel wall with little to no, actually no windows and no doors. You could not see the outside. So now what you have, I apologize about how short this was, it just wouldn't let me load a longer video. But what you have is you walk around, we have full glass, 8-foot windows, 8-foot doors. You can see out to the outside, and our perimeter offices are a lot nicer than they ever have. You have an 11-foot thick ceiling going out from those offices out to the middle of our open area. You'll be surprised to realize how big that space was and how many offices we got in there comfortably if you ever have the opportunity to get inside there. Today, the contractors they started installing carpeting, so we're moving right along. We're going to start our vinyl tile and our finishes. Our furniture is coming on Monday. Our office is closed. We have 2 semis coming, one Monday and one Wednesday. The first one, Monday, will be delivered and dropped off, and we're going to place the majority of the furniture in this corridor between the 2 doors. So we're going to actually block off on Monday the corridor from door to door. The public will still be able to get in. It won't hamper business at all. You just won't be able to walk through the building from one side to the other while we go through the furniture. This next one is, I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention, we had some questions. We put out an RFP for the generator at the DPW building. You can kind of see it to the left. That generator is really our only generator that's inside our shop. The problem with it is when it runs, it's like a large diesel truck and it echoes in that shop. And if we ever had an emergency, you can't really hear yourself think. And it really doesn't, it warms up the space in the summer. It just keeps recycling all that hot air. They're really made with that enclosure to be outside of the building. For some reason, when they built that building, they put it inside. So during that process, they had some drawings done, and they never quite finished it. They were supposed to put an exhaust that went out through the brick wall. So as part of our RFP we sent out was to finish this project. What we found is that exhaust is so expensive, it's actually cheaper to move the generator on the outside. All we have to do is extend our electrical and gas and slide the unit on the outside of the building. So we're gonna be bringing that to the next board and kind of talk through those details, but you can see the red arrow shows inside the shop where the generator is on the inside. The green arrow shows where we're gonna put it on the outside. So we'll be talking about that more in the next couple weeks. This is just a quick update. We've talked a lot about ARPA funds and ARPA projects. We're getting some of our kayak launch drawings back, so we're going through those now. So we're hoping to bring those to the board the next meeting or the meeting after and discuss those. So we're excited about that. There's a lot of ARPA funded projects that we're working on, trying to get all the drawings and specs complete. Sorry, the next one, this is a great one. I love this one. I wanted to talk about Brandenburg real quick. You know, obviously one of the ARPA funds we have is we're gonna do the vent pad there. Also, we're working with Parks and Rec and all of us to do an analysis on the gates, how they'll operate, how they'll work. So we're doing that now. In fact, tomorrow we have a lunch with the company who has so far the best gates we've come across, the way they'll operate. We're trying to get them as simple as possible. And really, when you pull into Brandenburg, there's the new booth to the right and the old booth when I started to the left. We're just trying to clean it up, make it professional when you enter, and really make this, we're also working on signage. We're trying to make our park sign simple, because obviously when you came in there, you can't tell me if you're coming or going, but right now, as we clean things up and go through site by site, we'll just have a more professional, clean look. I think that's it. Any questions?
I do want to give a couple updates from the Parks and Recreation world. We oversee 3 different boards and commissions. So first, the Parks and Rec Commission. They put out a survey during the Cheers to Chesterfield event, and they plan to reopen that survey this month. What they're asking for is how people utilize Parks and Recreation, utilize our parks, and what they want to see. So you'll see that coming out soon. They're also very interested in marketing and diversifying what we offer in Parks and Rec, and so they're challenging us to expand what we're doing and our reach. Beautification Commission and Tree Board, we've actually had a hard time filling our meetings with a quorum, and so we're hoping to fill those last remaining seats so we can have a consistent meeting schedule. But they did meet this last month, and they took steps forward on that Tree City USA, so you'll see that coming back to the board. And then our Senior Advisory Board, they put out another survey to our senior folks who are looking for ways to spend donated senior funding. It's been accumulated over the years, and so now we're ready to spend that money and take the next step forward there. So we're gathering that, and that's their task for the next month. In the programming world, this past weekend on Saturday, we had our fall Mom to Mom sale. We had over 500 people attend that show and shop. The show was sold out, over 40 tables. And then on Sunday, our Healthy Kids running series completed 45 runners. They came through and did a race every single week, and so they did their trophy ceremony on Sunday at Pollard Park. This upcoming weekend, you'll see Boo Bash out at Brandenburg on October 12th. And then the following weekend, we're keeping your Saturdays busy in October. That last October 19th, you'll see the cleanup day. So we invite you to come out and help beautify Chesterfield Township with us. Thank you.
Just had one.
Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, Ms. Vanderson, I just wanted you to be aware, I'm sorry, I should have gotten this to you sooner.
Sure.
When we were at the Gratiot Cruise, I had an individual that came up to me, indicated that he had been a part of the Beautification Commission some years ago.
Okay.
And he is an arborist and was interested. I don't know if it's appropriate, Mr. Supervisor, I'll forward it to you or to Ms. Vanderson, but he was very anxious. He had worked with Mr. Yashin in the past and was wondering if we were sort of reconstituting our tree city, and he had a lot of history. So I'll forward that to you.
Please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
Thanks. Sorry about that. I meant to
Valuable
do it to you sooner.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay.
That's
Thank
the
you.
direction we're going, yes, thank you. Now I'll move to item 7. Item 7, public comments on agenda items only, 3-minute time limit. If you would, please state your name just for the record so we can keep track. It is not required. The mic is open.
Christopher Pierrick, Chesterfield Township. Comment about item number 10A. That's a recommendation to partner with Macomb County Department of Roads for resurfacing Jefferson from Rosso Highway to Altman for $840,000. A year ago, there was an agenda item to partner with Macomb County Road Commission to reconstruct 23-mile road from Gratiot to the railroad tracks for $921,000. That night, that motion was never supported, so the item failed. The next meeting, that item came back at a 40% discount, and it was approved. So I'm sure somebody sharpened some pencils somewhere to get that down 40%. I'm wondering if we can do the same thing tonight and reject that item, and then it'll come back at 40% less next meeting for $504,000 instead of $840,000. Just curious. Thank you.
Joe Kadage, I live on Sutton. I'd like to echo what Chris was talking about. We don't have a millage or anything to support the Macomb County Road Commission. That's supposed to be their deal. Anytime anybody wanted any roads, anybody in the township wanted any roads referred to, you had to go to everybody in the neighborhood and get them to sign in a Saturday that they would provide half of it. Now, most of those people that come down Jefferson that you're going to worry about on the road don't even live in the area. Most of them, if you go early in the morning or late at night, those cars are going straight through New Baltimore or beyond. I don't see where we have the money that we can put almost $1 million to help repave that road. And the other thing that came out was they finally repaved Sutton, and I had the problem with that beforehand. I sent Supervisor Kersten a note that the water pipe, the water main under Sutton had been bad for years, and that he should replace that before they repave it. I don't know what they put into it, probably maybe $300,000, $400,000 to repave it. And that pipe is still bad. In fact, when they were paving it, they hit 2 risers and we had 2 breaks. And we paved over it. Now, I know you won't want to spend any money on our underground or anything, but this is really getting ridiculous. If you have to redo that thing now, you're going to have to tear up half that road to get that pipe out, put it alongside the roadway, and then repave the road on top of it. That'll be our responsibility. Going in with money for Macomb just doesn't make any sense. Let them handle it. It's their problem. Let them do it. The other thing I wanted to ask about, there's one item in here about the extending the lease on the technology system, BS&A system. And I don't think that thing's into effect yet. You bought that $300,000 4 years ago, and I don't think it's in fully effect. And yet you want to spend almost another $500,000 to do something else with it? I think we get our ducks in a row here and fix it first, and then if you need to add on to it for the, looks like you want to take care of the labor and the payroll. Let's get working what's supposed to be working first. Thank
you. James Locke, Chesterfield Township. Item Agenda H, new program. Do we have a guarantee that this program that you want to add to the BS&A program, is there a cost saving to this? Is this going to help us save any money, or is this just buying a program to buy a program? Spend money because you can spend money. You know, you don't give any answers, we don't know. And on agenda item D and F, I strongly object to these 2 agenda items. $36,000 for cleanup at Chesterfield Veterans Center to create walking and bike paths, and $195,000 for a new playscape at Brandenburg Park, totaling $231,000. These funds might better serve Chesterfield citizens if allocated to the parks west of 94 freeway, which have been overlooked and remain underdeveloped, to ensure equitable distribution of resources for all Chesterfield residents, not just the east side. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public? Seeing none, I will move to number 8, consent agenda. Clerk Berry.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 24th, 2024. B, approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent
Support.
agenda as presented.
Motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Treasurer Elliott. Discussion? Seeing none, I have a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Treasurer Elliott. Clerk Berry.
Clerk Berry, aye. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 9, public hearings are unscheduled. Item 10, the regular agenda. Item 10A, Clerk Berry.
Item 10A is to approve a recommendation to authorize the Township Supervisor to sign a resolution with the Macomb County Department of Roads to support and commit to participate in the resurfacing of Jefferson Avenue from William P. Rosso Highway to Altman, should it be included in the TIP for 2026 through 2029.
Mr. O'Connor, can you explain this?
Good evening. The Jefferson resurfacing project is the TIP project.
And is there a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Motion
Support.
by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Treasurer Elliott. My apologies again. Huh?
Good evening.
Edge, go ahead.
Yeah. The Jefferson resurfacing is a TIP project which includes federal funding for 80% of the construction cost. It is in the preliminary phases right now. It's being submitted for a project that could happen in the 2026 to 2029 time period. The information presented is an estimate. As part of the requirement for submittal, the county needs an agreement from the communities, New Baltimore and Chesterfield Township. If the project does become a project, it actually moves into the construction phase, the final agreement would be presented to the board with the actual numbers at that time.
Discussion from the board. Trustee Anderson?
Kind of mulling this around, but I look at, I know one of the speakers talked about the traffic to and from New Baltimore. You drive down there and virtually every single resident along that strip of Jefferson utilizes that road at some time. That's the only way you're going to get out of there. It's kind of hard riding through fields when no roads are. So I see merit in this project. Like in the past, I have some problems with the township bearing this amount of the expenditure. And I do like what Mr. Pierce said. I will not support it. Hopefully it'll come back maybe at a reduced rate, and I would hope that there's also some concerns with water mitigation along that area so we get away from some of the issues we had 2 years ago. So although I think it's meritorious, I can't support it at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to address some comments so there isn't any confusion, the reason we got a 40% reduction on the 23-mile road plan was that there was some engineering changes. They did not go down and they did not replace the deeper storm drains that were along 23-mile road. So they inspected them, they improved, they left them as they were and did everything above surface. So that was the big reduction in cost for 23-mile road. Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you. The reason I support this project is because while it's looking like we would contribute 840,000, the total project is in the millions of, almost, well, it's $4.5 million almost. And this is the type of project that uses mostly federal dollars, and then there's a cost share to the county and the local units of government. And plus, this is also something that's not going to be taking effect now. This will be like in the, I think, 26 tip, did you say? So we've got time to actually look at what else needs to be done along that corridor that is the responsibility of the township, such as the storm drains, things like that. So I think this is a good opportunity to do this. It will come back to us again, if I'm not mistaken, for our final approval. So thank you.
Again, just to follow up on some comments, in the 2025 budget, you will see there are some sewer restoration projects in that area that will be submitted for approval in anticipation, if this is approved, moving forward. Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor, not to peel the scab off an old wound, but I remember it a little differently, and I don't know. I'm not saying that part of the project scope didn't change, but I recall when we had no support, they came back for that. There was a recalculation of what the county was paying in terms of the engineering fees and some of the in-house fees. So they were, in essence, their share went down as their board passed the expenditure. They said we were doing a 50-50. Their 50 looked several $100,000 less than our 50, and their portion of the money was made up for what they considered in-house engineering fees, and that they had contributed in kind, if you will. So maybe a combination, I don't recall, but I do know that it went dramatically down. I don't expect it'll happen here because this is a slightly different cost sharing, and as the Trustee Vosberg indicated, the total project is $4.5 million roughly, and then our share would be really to split 50-50 the remaining 20%. So we do, in theory, have a fraction of it. My difficulty is why are we paying any of it for a county road? And so the county's share, should be absorbed. I say that for two reasons. One, we wait in line like every other community, yet you'll hear it more and more as the project moves forward, but the town center development will be dramatically altered with the options that I've seen in terms of what M59 will look like and the opportunity to develop that parcel. So we do that in exchange for revenue coming into the region. The revenue that enhances the county never seems to make its way to Chesterfield, although Chesterfield bears the brunt of all of the very patriotic base expansion projects. We sacrifice our ability to generate revenue by developing that site, and then our residents have to decide how much of their tax money gets increased so that they can have a road that doesn't look like the Fallujah or some of the other bombed out countries that our F-35s then go and destroy. So we have it both ways. And the last thing I'll say on this, by the time this project comes back to the board for our 10% in 2029, it won't be 840,000. It will be significantly more than that because we'll be told that the per unit pricing has dramatically altered from way back in 2024. And you really don't have the opportunity to vote for it now and then not be told in 2029 or whenever the project comes back, well, what are you flip-flopping for? You voted for it back 5 years ago, and now you don't want to vote for it. So I'm not in favor of this. I realize that it's a great deal on a saddle. We just don't own a horse, and I'm not really interested in having more taxpayer money go to a county requirement and a county obligation.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? I have a motion by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Treasurer Elliott, to approve item 10A. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Domingue.
You say me?
Aye. Yeah, Trustee Domingue. Trustee Anderson.
No.
Trustee Joseph.
No.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, no.
Item 10B.
Item 10B is a recommendation from the Parks and Recreation Department to approve the official Chesterfield Township trick-or-treating hours from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Thursday, October 31st, 2024.
So moved. Support?
It's October again, so it's time for trick-or-treating hours to be set. These hours have worked well for us in the past, 6 to 8, and the Parks and Rec Commission, in their discussion, did approve and send it to the board.
Discussion? Trustee Joseph.
Just a quick comment. If you come to my house at 8:15 and it looks like you might have a full-time job somewhere, I'm still going to give you some candy because I would rather you be out with your little brother, or niece, nephew, whoever, and than out maybe visiting me in my day job. So I think the 6 to 8 fair hours, and if we run a few minutes late because we happen to have a good night, Joseph House will still have some candy for you.
Treasurer Elliott.
This question is for Clerk Barry. Clerk Barry, is it possible that at some point in time we could do a resolution just to declare the hours on this date a permanent one rather than them having to bring it back every year?
Sure, the board can set it whatever policy they want. If they would like a resolution for that we can prepare that. Sure.
Could we could make that motion now?
Trustee Domingue,
Would you amend it?
Sure.
make a resolution?
Make a resolution that those are be the forever. Yep.
Sorry, yes. Support.
Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph. Aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, aye.
Item 10C.
Item 10C is approval of an annual Chesterfield Township Memorial Donation Program to begin accepting applications in November 2024.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Treasurer Elliott. Ms.
So
Anderson?
we are often asked what way someone can memorialize their loved one or honor someone who is living in our department. Multiple times a year, someone comes to us. And so to be able to present a formal program in that way, we're excited to do so tonight. Most often, people want a place where they can visit with their family and friends, a place of designation for their family member. The Parks and Rec Commission did discuss this as well. They offered several ideas, but ultimately they do approve the application that's sitting in front of you. Working together with Facilities and Operations, we've been in discussion that checks all of the boxes for us. So a formal program where we can take all of those applications and put them in one direction, something that will put funding back into the program, and one that aligns with the future system, the park system that we have envisioned. And so we're not having an overrun of benches or an overrun of trees in the areas that no longer make sense. We do want that to be a focused decision. So on the board, you can see the actual application just to get a visual of it. Obviously, it's tough to read here in the room. But in that application process, residents will find on the form that it's either on the township website they can find it or in the Parks and Recreation office if they want to fill it out in person. It can be returned by mail, email, or dropped off in the office. They will complete that application form and request the location of their bench from the listed options that we will have designated. An approval will be sent back along with an invoice for payment. Then once that payment is received in our department, the Facilities Department will be able to send it out for an order for delivery. The program will only be available for Chesterfield Township residents, so this will not be available to non-residents. Individuals and families are invited to partake in it. We do recommend if a business wants to give back to the township and wants to have a lasting impact, we will actually send them to our sponsorship form. That can be found on the website or again in the office, but that would be a better way to have a lasting impact from the business world. This is more individual. The program is named the Memorial Donation Program because it does have the ability to grow. We'll see offerings more and more opportunities each year. There will be benches, it could be pier boards, could be bricks. It'll certainly open up to other locations in the township, other park locations. So Stephanie here from Facilities is able to walk through the actual installation and the budget side of things to give you a better idea of the program.
Thank you. So this next slide here, you'll see this is a map of Brandenburg Park. Some of the red arrows in this picture is where there's either current or proposed locations for benches. And the bottom pictures are the ADA accessible bench that we install throughout our township. That's been the customary one that we are going to be placing because we believe that ADA should be accessible for everyone at every bench location. We are also incorporating pier boards into this program. So along the pier, we will be installing these benches that are made of composite wood as well. Strategically, there is no back placed on these benches, so people can enjoy seating and viewing the water and fishing in both directions. When we were working on putting this donation program together, our own township employee, Felicia Barlow, unfortunately passed away on May 9th. We used her name as an example when finding the perfect plaque to fit our benches, as you see here. So the Facilities and Operations Department will order these plaques as they're requested through the application, and then we router out the top center of the bench and install the plaque. In the application program, it outlines the cost for a park bench at $3,000 and a pier bench at $2,000. We just wanted to show you here some of the items that go into the cost for that. We did look at other communities' programs to ensure that our price was comparable, and in some areas we're a little bit under. We also worked with the finance director, Vicki Bauer, to make sure that a general ledger is created for the funds donated to be captured and then placed back into the park through the purchases of these items. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Trustee Joseph.
Just curious, they look like the composite and the construction of the bench looks pretty sturdy, but all things deteriorate with time. And what was the projected length that we anticipate the bench? What would be the service life, if you will, of the bench? And then when the bench needs replacing, do we keep the same memorial plaque, or does it expire as the bench expires? Is there a timeline associated with the the bench?
So the bench comes with a 5-year manufacturer's warranty, and in the application we spell that out, that the bench is guaranteed by the township for maintenance, replacement of any boards through that 5-year warranty program. At the end of the 5 years, we don't peel the name off of the bench, but after that, as the bench deteriorates, then we will be in contact with the family to see if they would like to replace that bench again. Obviously, we could save some costs with reusing a plaque, but it is not our intention to, at that 5-year mark, just get rid of that bench.
So as the bench becomes, when it's no longer usable, you'll have the conversation with the donor organization or individual, and then they can maybe at that time replace the bench, or we get a new bench out there.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Trustee Domingue.
I think it's a good idea, but the bronze plaque, and I will just give you an example. The bronze plaque that's out in this hallway here from my dad from years ago used to be on the pump station on Jefferson. It was stolen. That was during my first term with Jim Ellis. That's why it was put inside, and my family paid for a vinyl one to go on that. So bronze is nice, but scrappers. Because that's during that same time, if I recall right, and this is, you're talking during my first term, so between '04 and '08, they were even going over to St. Mary's Cemetery and taking off the bronze plaques on the back of the ones at the military. Hank, you would know, it's the ones they put on the back of a headstone for military guys, so that's, it's a great idea, but I just question the bronze. I mean, I'll reach out
Maybe
to
a material that's like ornate, but not necessarily of like significant scrap value?
Yeah, I mean, you go to bronze, brass, or anything like that right now, it's like crazy, at the scrap yards. But just something to throw out there, Stephanie and Michelle, because I know from past practice 16, 20 years ago what happened. So, just an idea. I'm leaving it up to the board and let the other board members know. Hank, you probably remember that.
And we did look at that, so although we used this plaque in the picture, another one that we had made was one that comes with the benches that you could buy through the bench program. It's thinner, a different material, but that one was the same cost. So then we thought, well, this one did look a lot nicer, and we would, with routering the back of the board and adhering it into the board, we would hope that we could prohibit people from stealing that, but it is a very good point. And now with the improvements at our park with cameras, more cadet presence, we're hoping that just building and enhancing that park will deter people from doing that. But thank you for that point.
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Michelle.
Trustee Anderson.
I just want to echo what Trustee Domingue said. Scrappers, if it's brass, whatever the content, you're running a risk of it. And I mean, it'll be an ongoing expenditure if that happens for Parks and Recs to replace those. So there's some other kind of material you can use. I mean, I had experience in my other profession. They'd come and actually literally rip off the aluminum siding off the house if they thought there was no one there. And I'm just kind of concerned out here. At the park, there's not 24-hour security there. It's a temptation, just food for thought. Good point. Trustee Domingue.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Hey, I'm just curious, though, the theft involving yours is a pretty substantial piece of brass. This is a much smaller piece, and I'm wondering if we can, adhere it in a way to kind of deter. It's not just like you come in with a screwdriver and pop it off, I don't know the value, and I don't know how desperate people are, but it looks like a pretty modest plaque, but moving away from a less, you're not saving anything, and again, I don't know what the cost of the plaque is and what it would, recoup on the open market and scrapping, but the appearance, if I'm going to spend $3,000, I'd like to have, something that looks, the way that you've presented it in the, so, good points in terms of, trying to protect it, but, I don't want to let the terrorists win either, so it's a balance there for sure, but I think the program is just an excellent idea.
Super. Thank you. I guess, if you want to do brass, and then see what happens. I won't be up here, the other board member will be up here to deal with that at that time, but, go with it and keep our fingers crossed. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention from what happened back then. Thank you.
I have a motion by Trustee Vosberg, supported by Treasurer Elliott, to approve item 10C. Clerk Berry?
Trustee Vosberg?
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Joseph?
Aye.
Trustee Domingue?
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 10D.
Item 10D is to approve a recommendation by Supervisor Kersten to approve and sign lease number 12319-2024-0125 between the State of Michigan and the Township of Chesterfield to lease 67.73 acres of land located on the Chesterfield Veterans property to utilize as pathways for residents.
Motion to approve.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion,
Okay, I'll support it.
supported by Treasurer Elliott. Mr. Sonnenberg.
Yes, good evening. So just want to go through some details. This is a project that it's been a collaboration with Parks and Rec, the Supervisor's Office, Karen and her staff. We've been working on this since January. There's been a lot of conversations with the state. We just looked at it as a great opportunity. So as we all know, we're just going to go through 5 slides and kind of discuss a bunch of details. Not to get too deep into the lease, but how we got here, what we need to do to get this property to a point where we can use it, and some cost involved. So I'm going to break down those 5 slides and then take any questions, and feel free to interrupt me anytime during the way. So this slide you see at first kind of is an overview of that area. As a gentleman mentioned earlier, we don't have a lot of parks in this area, and we're kind of limited on access and bike paths. It's hard to see, but this is the drawing that we started when we sent to the state when we were having this conversation. At the very top of this map, Sugar Bush runs across from right parallel to the top of the map, and at the bottom, Cotton Road runs. You can see that picture in the bottom right. It kind of shows Cotton Roads and some of the bridges that we all know too well. There's no way that you can pass on either side of those roads. It's Sugar Bush or Cotton. So it kind of limits you to this corridor. You can't really travel up and down. You can only go right and left. The top portion that you see, that green box, represents a subdivision that's connected by sidewalks. The reddish box on the top is actually Middle School South, and just below that is our community center. Those kind of all tie together. In an effort we're currently under, we're trying to get the bike path to run from those boxes up to the Weber splash pad and then on to Brandenburg. And then in the future, the plan is to carry it down. We wouldn't mind residents riding across those arched roads, Pheasant and Forbes, because they're private drives or residential streets and not main drives. So if you follow that green line that kind of goes around those streets, you'll see that middle pink section is actually the elementary school across from the veterans property. There's a sidewalk that goes through from Sugar Bush to that residential neighborhood. Looking at those 2 parcels of property in the center, that's our veterans housing property. The unused portions are kind of highlighted. We'll get back to that. If you look to the left, you see all those green subdivisions that run between 23, Donner, and 94. Those are all interconnected pretty close with sidewalks. Not totally connected, but inside of each subdivision there is sidewalks, and there's sidewalks that run along Donner, almost to the property. Same with the bottom neighborhoods. All these neighborhoods have a way to get to these pathways if they're opened up. So we just looked at it as an opportunity where, although there's subdivisions with interconnected sidewalks, we don't really have access to nice pathways. This kind of opens that up. You'll see going back to the 2 middle parcels, there's roughly 68 acres of property that's already existing. And the really interesting part about this is, as we all know, there used to be base housing there, and the roads are still in play. They're still there. And to be honest with you, they're better than some of the roads around the area. And I'm going to get back into that. I actually took a site video driving so you can kind of see what they look like today. I'm going to go to the next. We got new AC, we shouldn't. So if you're hot, I apologize. Oh, all right. It might be because the new systems are kicking on and they just started them up, so you might get a little oil residue. I apologize. And the temperature will be a little off as we move through starting up those units. You can jump in at any time too. Okay, going back to this slide, this was when we were looking at the initial, how could we use the site? What do we have to do to make the site work? So the first slide, upper left, is kind of when you're driving down Donner, the people that make that turn, you can see it just looks like an overgrown fence line. There's not a lot going on. So one of the things we would do is clean that up. As you move around that, I know it's hard to see, that top slide kind of shows how we would connect. There's that bridge that connects that orange trail that you see to the veterans housing and how we would work that out. Moving right to the right side, that tree that you see, that yellow circle, we all know that the eagle's nest is there, and we were trying to, as we talked to the state, preserve an area when we open up these trails where we're mindful of the eagle and the nest. So there's a yellow circle that kind of highlights that area where we're not going to use, we're actually going to block off those 3 trails that run through there to give them ample amount of space. As we move to the bottom, I apologize once again, it's hard to see, but we kind of went and figured out where we're going to place gates and how we could safely ingress and egress from the property for pedestrians and some car traffic. We'll go to this. Yeah, I can smell that too as well, Supervisor Kersten. So this next slide is a little bit deeper dive into those 2 parcels of property. So you can see Donner on the left, Sugarbush on the right, the two parcels that we're looking at leasing from the state, and the veterans housing up top. There is roughly, the highlighted trails that you see with the darker lines, there's roughly a mile worth of pathways. These trails, we'll call it Trail 1 and Trail 2. Trail 1 to the left kind of comes in off Donner, and just as you pull in, we were going to install a gravel parking lot for 10 to 20 spots right out of the start where you'd pull up off the curb and you could park your car. We're going to move that entrance gate back beyond those parking spots and have some ballards where residents can park, get out, and walk these trails. The orange trail is the actual existing street that we're going to open up. The darker green lines that are tough to see, we plan on mowing, cleaning up and mowing 12 feet around all these paths, because when you get there, the grass edge is encroached right up to the curb, so we want to clean them up, so at least if you have a family walking through, you've got a clear line of sight. Same on the bottom. We're going to scrape and clean those roadways on the bottom, which connects back to Sugarbush Road. The one ad, or the few ads we're going to make, if you look at, there's a little dotted line, that brown kind of, that's a detention pond in the middle. We're going to add, as we grind these trees up, we're going to add a wood chip path. To keep some of the residents from walking constantly around by the veterans' property, we have a wood chip path that we're going to put in around the detention pond, which is almost clear. We're going to use all the chips that we chip on site and create that path, so some residents don't have to walk along that sidewalk near the veterans' property. On the right, you can see there's a pretty detailed assessment of where we're going to put our signage. We got some no parking signs along the veterans' housing area. We have trash cans identified, a porta-john on site, and some different trail signage marking how these trails could be used. Our plan at first, when we talked to the state, was just to use this as a seasonal park, kind of like we do with Weber, where we'd open up in the summer, spring to winter months, and you'd be able to access these trails, but we don't plan on plowing them and maintaining them through the winter unless the demand increases. I'm gonna go to the next slide. This is actually a video of me driving down the road so you can kind of see what the roads look like. This was last week. They're not in horrible, horrible shape. If you look, there's actually curb and gutter on the outside. What our plan would be to do is, I apologize, I'm just turning, you can see the veterans housing is down that way. I kind of just run for a minute and you can kind of get an overview of what's going on. This is driving down Trail 1 as we drive through it. Our plan would be is to run a road sweeper and cut back all the debris and scrape it with a bobcat as we ran through, just to scrape the debris up, run a road sweeper, and then cut about 12 feet on each side, and leaving any big or decent-sized trees. We're not trying to remove any trees. We just want to get it cleaned up and cut back. So I'll let this video run for a second so you can kind of get a feel of what the roads are today. And then we're going to talk some numbers and some costs on how we get this. Although the veterans, the state was able to give us the property, they said, for care and maintenance for a 10-year period out of the bank, possibly a 20-year period, with an 18-month out. So if we decided we want to engage in this lease and then we decided it doesn't really work out for us, we still have the option to get out. The only cost to the state, now that's to the state, there's other costs obviously involved, would be care and maintenance. And care and maintenance means exactly what we spelled out in these plans is what the veterans group accepted us to do to manage this property. They're actually excited to see somebody using this property because it's a big open space. We have some trails, we could try them out for a year or two and then make some decisions. I'm gonna go to the next slide. This actually stops. We actually have a pump station down at the end of this property that we already maintain. Our guys drive this periodically and check that. You can kind of see it's mowed and cleaned up down at the end. There's a pump station all the way at the top of that property. So we're gonna stop it there and go to the next slide. I apologize, I should have made this bigger. This breaks down the cost that we associated. You could see in your package, there's roughly $36,000 worth of cost that we estimated would take to get this property where it would be. That would be out of the gate for the first year. So the first section you see is really man hours. We estimated 4 guys for 3 weeks. That's the lion's share of the cost. And then we engage in a tree contractor, TC, at $1,000 a day for roughly 3 days. It takes down some of the bigger trees and add those chips to that trail we talked about. The next cost, I can barely see this, sorry, I'm gonna walk up there. The next cost, you can see So that gravel parking lot is when you walk in right there and drive in. The nice thing about that parking lot, we're going to start off with 10 to 15 spots, and we can expand it. So that is a start. We'll see how the park gets used. If we want to expand it, we got plenty of space to push it back. On the bottom, you can see some of the operational cost. There is, I got to go back over there, sorry. I'm going to take this with me. There is porta-johns for the annual cost of $1,200. Township staff garbage, we figured one seasonal worker at $17 an hour, 8 hours a week, $136 a week times 28 weeks, $3,808. Thank you. Thank you. Landscape services is based on a bi-weekly cut, 14 cuts at $940. That includes cutting the green path that we showed and also blowing the streets. So your annual rough operation cost is about $18,000. And on top of that, And on top of that, we did reach out to our insurance provider, figuring there would be a cost with our insurance. Because of the way our insurance is set up, a blanket policy, there is no additional cost to us per our insurance agent unless we put some kind of structure on this property. Thanks for putting up with my traveling with the mic.
Yeah, real quick, during your presentation, I got a two-part question here. One is, the first part of, will we have markings around the eagle nest to ensure, we don't have, they're not molested? And the second part is, did you mention something in 16 or 18 months, if this turns out to be not the best thing, the township can opt out of the agreement? Thank you.
Yes, per our lease, there's an 18-month, we have 18-month, in there it's spelled out where at any time we got to give an 18-month notice and we can get out of the lease. And then to your point, to your question, sorry, we are going to put some signage, that's those red boxes that you see, and when we're moving some material, our plan is, because it's cost effective, we're going to mound some dirt at the end of those trailheads and plant some pine trees and eventually on top of those trailheads. So when you look down the street, you don't see the road continuing down the area around that eagle's nest.
Josh, I'm gonna, I think you misspoke. It's 180 days.
Oh, I'm sorry.
180 days
Sorry.
we can get out. Item, I think it's, in the agreement, it's, item 6. Correct.
Thank you.
Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor, I don't know if you remember this, but way back in the day, Mr. Ellis was our supervisor. We were working with the Base Realignment Council. I forgot what the acronym was, BRAC. I was serving on the Parks and Rec Commission. I think Mr. Christ was maybe a freshman, appointee. The Base Realignment activity was, Mr. Wormlinger was our Parks and Rec director back then, and we were working to see the property sort of deeded to the township in perpetuity in exchange for exactly this type of use. It kind of fell apart because at the time, the housing that was still on the base, they were decommissioning that, but the vacant buildings there was a concern about asbestos abatement and the cost associated with, raising those buildings, and eventually they went in a completely different direction. But those roadways that you did a very nice job in the video of showcasing were seen as not only exceptional bike paths, walking paths, but the connectivity from heavy populated subdivisions, which I live in that neighborhood, and if you want to ride your bike, you better stay in the sub. Because as you go out onto Donner or Cotton, you're taking your life into your hands. And the board just had, we unfortunately got a glimpse of what our PD deals with on a daily basis, but Director Bassett sent us pictures of a vehicle that went off the road in that curve. It's very, very dangerous. So pedestrian and bike path use trying to get to other areas of the community is really non-existent. So the ability to have a sizable portion of safe bike paths that also serve as some connectability is like a home run in about 52,000 areas. When you talk about parkways and paths and connectability, you have a very sizable piece of land that does all of that. And if you're even, if you want to just ride your bike within that area, it's a perfect area with all kinds of natural park setting that doesn't, oddly enough, create a huge maintenance expenditure for the township. It is natural, and so there isn't a lot of upkeep associated with something like a Brandenburg, or this is truly, you know, bike and pedestrian path friendly. And I don't usually pay attention to my phone during board meetings, but my wife has incessantly texted me throughout your presentation. If I don't support this, I'm just not going to go home, because this is the you know, for anybody that likes to ride their bike in this community, there's not a lot of opportunities without taking your life into your hands. So I know that she's watching. Chris, I'm a firm yes on this, and I'll leave me alone.
Did you just refer to him as Kerry Carpenter Bonds?
Yes, yes, yeah. That's sure. Thanks. Thanks, Josh.
Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you, Supervisor. Josh, how many miles of trails is that? I don't know if you said that, but.
So it's a little over a mile of trails. It's like, we'll just call it a little over a mile. Potentially, if we add, if you look at the orange box and you look at the trail where it says Trail 2, just below that, there's another line. We could open up that trail and expand it a little bit more. You know, those roads are pretty long, but at this point, our goal is to just kind of get those trails opened up that we have. But you're a little over a mile at this point.
Okay, this is exciting. I think as I've stated several times, I live in a neighborhood very similar to Trustee Joseph, and we have, over the years, had to load up, you know, the kids' bikes and go other places in order to take them for a ride. So the roads are big enough where you could take an entire family for a bike ride and enjoy all of that. And it's about a mile, but you can use it in different ways. And then there is, you're thinking, you're not sure, somewhere between, you're saying 10 and 20. So you guys are kind of trying to figure out how many spots are, or is that just depends on the size of the vehicles are there? Like for parking, so if, you know, if a family from my neighborhood wants to take their, you know, take a truck or something up there, how is that gonna work?
So when you pull in, the gate off Donner will be pushed back. When you pull in, we're gonna cut the curb and we're gonna install a gravel parking lot. So you'd pull off the road and just park on gravel. And gravel parking lots are easy to expand. We thought we'd start off with 10 to 15 spaces. It was our goal. And then if it gets busy, just like at Weber, there's times where it's busy and there's times where it's not. I mean, obviously, as we go through this process, we'll be communicating with the board, and if we're at the point where we're like, hey, we need to expand parking, that's a good problem to have. So we'll have those discussions. Our goal really is at first to just check this box, get this cleaned up, get that fence line along Donner cleaned up, and then talk about the next steps.
Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
great work, and I'm very excited to see this finally come to fruition. Thank you.
Trustee Bosworth.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I support this as well. I think it's a great opportunity for more people to be able to get out and move around our community. I have a question about the costs that you have. Are you thinking that existing, some of those are our own, the cost of our own staff, existing staff, or do you think that you're anticipating hiring an additional person?
Great question. Those numbers, because we've had these discussions before, we wanted to show labor rates. So those are our labor costs. We did get a contractor to give us a price, and it was pretty close. The problem with it is, with the contractors, we don't have the flexibility we do with our group. That's what's good about having our own crew. We have a lot of flexibility, and it's not really a cookie cutter job. We're gonna have to move around. We might go from section to section. So we like, at these numbers, having our staff perform the work, and that's that number that you see the lion's share of the site prep up top. So it's around, I believe it's around $18,000. Thank you.
So just one quick follow-up. So right now, it would just be using existing staff?
Correct. To get it started, we would use our staff to get it cleaned up and started, yes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Question I have, I think it's a great idea, but the Eagles have been over there for a while. They're used to having that whole area to themselves. Now you're gonna have a lot of traffic, because like when people are always over at Naldrit taking pictures of the Eagles with the super zoom lenses on their camera, now you're gonna have people and bicycles in there. Have you talked to any wildlife specialists regarding the Eagles? Because that's my concern. You don't want to disturb the Eagles. That's the only question I have.
Great question. So we've had a lot of conversations, and in fact, Hannah, who's our representative from the state, has been fantastic. We had a lot of discussions about the Eagles, and she basically said she agreed that the space that we're providing, you know, there's no perfect scenario. There's a lot of eagles that make nests on the side of golf courses and other places, don't really have the luxury of 67 acres all to themselves. So we provided a nice footprint for them, which is within the recommended space on the websites and the research we've done. There is no perfect scenario. You're right. There will be people out there, but there will be no vehicles. The only vehicles we'll be running are our township vehicles once in a while when we come in to do service work. So the nice part about it is you're only looking at bike and pedestrian and bike traffic. So it'll keep it down to a minimum.
But when the landscaper guy's got to come in there and cut 12 feet on each side, aren't those mowers going to spook those eagles?
Well,
and with backpack blowers blowing off the street?
yeah,
I'm
then
just
that's why
throwing it
we're
out
kind of,
there.
we're at that range over almost 300 feet, over 200 and something feet away from the tree. So there is quite, although it looks small on the map, it's a huge amount of space.
All right.
So.
Just throwing it out there, Josh.
I totally understand, and it's a great point, because I want everybody to be mindful. I know people really love those eagles, and we are barricading and blocking those, and we will put up signage. So that will be a part of the ongoing discussion. We'll start it, we'll open it up, and if we have problems, then we'll have to address it.
You're definitely gonna have to address it, because I'm gonna tell you, it's the same thing like on the bike path from the Salt River going toward Brandenburg. You know, often I see guys with these little mini dirt bikes driving down the bike path and stuff. I think you're probably gonna have the same problem. I'm just throwing it out there.
Totally understand. What's great now with our cadet program, we've talked to Director Bassett, and he was on board from the start. We already have a plan where the cadets are gonna roll through. That cadet program has been nothing but helpful when it comes to Pollard and Brandenburg. Having the extra eyes on site, we get instant feedback. In fact, what's nice is Director Bass and his teams, the cadets could actually go at night, you know, when their shift closes, and shut those gates so you wouldn't even be able to pull in the parking lot. So we would keep traffic to a minimum, and they could kind of keep their extra eyes on it. And if we had to, just like we've done at some other, we'll put up some trail cameras, and we'll monitor it the best we can. I think the reward outweighs the risk, and we will monitor that and do the best we can to keep those eagles, that footprint, as safe as possible. You're welcome.
Trustee Anderson.
Yeah, I believe, but when it was first acknowledged about 6 years ago that there was nesting eagles, the eagle was nesting there, I recall former treasurer, I believe it was Hartman, actually had information from the government. It talked to concentric circles, how close to that net, what radius you could be operating, gas operated, noise making things. So I know for sure that our workers, and you'll ensure that that is honored. The other thing is, well, a couple of weeks ago, Supervisor Kersten and I attended the Volunteers Acknowledgement Program at the Veterans Hall, and you look out south from there, and it's interesting how, since they abandoned the housing and tore them all down, how that's gone back to a natural state. And don't need any specifics, but arrangements are being made for our department, which is busy enough to be able to randomly, erratically check through there, make sure it is as safe as possibly can be made. Is that going to be looked into also, besides saving our eagle? Thank you.
Yes, great question. That's why we'll rely on the cadet program to be the first set of eyes that's out there on site. So we had those discussions with Director Bassett, and they were on board.
I did want to just let everyone know, we did revise this several times to make sure that we were far enough away from the eagle. We went back and forth with the state multiple times.
Clerk Berry.
Thank you. My understanding is that actually the eagles are gone right now. They don't know if they're going to return. They may or they may not. So I think there's a concern for the nests, certainly, and I'm sure the experts in eagles will direct us on what to do there. So I don't have any concern about that. I do have a couple concerns, and I don't mean to be a killjoy by any means, because I love the concept. But I've got some concerns. First and foremost is security. I appreciate the cadet program, and they're very helpful during elections as well. I would feel a lot better about this if we can commit to putting some of those cameras up, because that is a lot of space, and I don't know how one person could, or even a couple could, manage monitoring all that. It's heavily wooded. It's beautiful, but there's a lot of places I see there where someone could easily be dragged into those trees and have bad things happen. And well, let's not do that. So I'd feel a lot better with some cameras there. And I think that would be a nominal cost overall. So if we could please add that to this, I would be more comfortable supporting it. The other thing is a couple of things. Over the years, I have had conversations with yourself, Josh, and others that have expressed several things to me. One, we have an awful lot of property in this township, too much, actually. I would have liked to have seen, along with this, bringing in, for one in, one out. So I would be interested in seeing what properties we could dispose of, take this one on, because I think this is going to probably become one of the most popular ones we have, and then there's some that we've never done anything with, and they've been sitting there. So maybe we can look at offloading something else to help supplement any costs of this project. And also, I'm willing to bet a nickel to a donut that we're going to be expanding this because people are going to love it. So, but let's get rid of some of our other stuff. The other thing too is it's been expressed to me over the years, and there's a concern that, we're just spread really, really thin in terms of personnel. Can't get to that, would love to get to it, can't get to it, especially at certain times of the year. We've had to wait for things and stuff like that. So I'm concerned about the strain it might put on the personnel. I can appreciate the fact that our people are going to do it. I would be even more supportive if we just really did increase the size of your department to handle this, even if it's by a person or two, because I've been told on at least a dozen occasions, even in the last 2 years, we just don't have the personnel. We just don't have it. There's a lot of demands put on this department, and I know how many demands are put on your department. So my concern is this. Again, I think this is going to be a very popular, probably expanded soon type of a situation, just based on just the expressions from the board members alone and Mrs. Joseph. And so I want to make sure that this isn't another one of those situations that just puts us under a lot of strain. And then because if we only have so many resources, something is gonna fall secondary, third, and so on to pulling on something like this. So I'd like to see maybe some additions to the facilities resources in order to accommodate it, and please put in some cameras for us. I think I would feel a lot better about it. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Joseph.
I forgot in my first pass at this, Josh, I was making a note. I'm on you every single time that you come with a presentation for the cost of vendor versus in-house, and you actually included this very well. You laid out a very good estimate of what you anticipate our people and the investment and the amount of hours to accomplish base level, entry level, which is right where you should be at a 180-day mark. I mean, you don't want to go all in and then find out 6 months it doesn't work. I think you did a very nice job of balancing the investment in to get a read on what some of the other problems or some of the other issues that we might need to consider, next budget cycle. But for the investment, the return on investment, and the initial, commitment, I understand Clerk Berry's argument perfectly, and the issues with, land that the township is not utilizing. The reason we're not utilizing is it's not as pivotal in terms of placement as this parcel. This has, as Treasurer Elliott mentioned, internal space. If you just want to ride your vehicle over, park, and then get out, you can spend a good amount of time riding your bike in a really safe place. if you were a little bit more adventurous and you didn't have maybe smaller children that you were worried about crossing, and you had more experienced bike riders, you can navigate your way over to other areas. And this piece is unique in terms of all the other opportunities that we have, in the township with existing land that we own. We're not dealing with a private entity, so the state, I think, is consistent with the plan that was rolled out when the veterans made their initial presentation. They were talking about restricting car traffic, but leaving open an opportunity for pedestrian traffic, that more walkers and bikers enhanced the living experience for the residents at the Veterans Home. Supervisor Kersten, just a couple of board meetings ago, invited us to attend an event, and we have a lot of veterans over there that, in spite of a beautiful facility, they really do crave and deserve human interaction. And so pedestrians and bike and just, an inclusion and making that a more accessible place without the risk of cars also adds to this project. So I think you did a wonderful job on the presentation. You just hit all the boxes. We really shouldn't let perfect be an enemy of good, and there are some strategic ideas to improve this. And I just would like the record to reflect and the minutes to reflect, if Trustee Demink votes no on this, I'm going to load up my truck with my family's bikes. I'm going to pick up Treasurer Elliott's family, and we're going to park right at your marina, and then we're just going to drive our bikes right up in front of your house all day. So if the minutes could reflect that, and I appreciate your presentation, Josh.
Treasurer Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Got a couple of questions, comments. So the first is that when I'm looking at Trail 2, and that's the blue line, correct? And that comes like to a little bit of an end, and I believe that is Sugarbush Road. And then there's kind of a light green path on the, yeah, exactly. So there's that light green path, and then it comes along. So I know that is sidewalk along Sugarbush Road. So if before we head over to Demink's house, if we stop over here and we're riding our bikes, we're gonna come up on that blue path. We park over there, pick up David's family, park over here on Donner. We ride our bikes along Trail 2. We come up Sugarbush, and then we're at that, is that road there, is there a sidewalk or a pathway there along that road if we're riding our bikes?
Which?
That's across from the veterans there. It's like, I see a green highlight. Yeah.
This?
Not, yeah, keep going, right there.
This?
Yeah, that area. Is that a place?
There is sidewalk here. So what we're gonna try to do though is, what we kind of, as we roll this out and people get familiar with the space, what we're gonna try to avoid is, we're gonna put no parking signs, and that's spelled out in our other page along here. What we don't want to happen is a bunch of, I mean, we're not gonna ticket people, but we wanna kind of advise people not to park along here. If you're gonna park anywhere on this side, obviously there's the elementary school here, we could park here. That's why we're opening up a trail here, and then another one down here. You can kind of see there's gonna be a wood chip trail down here. So the idea is to get people in either from here, but you could easily, I mean, it's a public, it is a sidewalk. You could walk down here, but the reason why we're putting this trail in here is when people come from Trail 1 to Trail 2, we want to steer them around this side of the detention pond so we don't have a ton of people, riding around down along the veteran facility. We also have no trail access parking down here because a lot of their staff parking here. We did a thorough breakdown on signage. That was one of the bigger conversations we had towards the end with Hannah from the state, making sure that we met all of her concerns and questions with the sign. So that's why we have a pretty significant number in there for signage. And we plan on putting those signage, and we told her, we'll go over for the first season, and if we have to add signs, we'll come back and we'll keep you updated on how this goes.
So Josh, is that bike friendly, that up at that part, or is that just gonna be walking?
This is, this sidewalk here?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That's a standard residential sidewalk.
Okay.
Goes all the way along here. And you'll notice once we take this property over, this sidewalk here in the green, and actually this sidewalk that's here, we, as part of our snow proposal, you might have saw it, we had an option, we had the contractor give us a price, because now that we're gonna lease this what?
In case.
Yeah, just in case this went through, because, thanks, Gary. Now that we're gonna lease this property, we will be responsible for plowing that sidewalk that runs along Sugar Bush. So we will ask the contractor to keep that sidewalk clean in the winter. But once again, our goal is not to keep this open in the winter. It'll be great for the summer. We just don't want to get into snow and ice responsibility with this just yet. In the future, I can't say we won't, but these first couple years, we're not planning on opening it up over the winter.
What is the anticipated date that this will be accessible?
Well, it would be weather depending, but really will fall in line with kind of late spring to late fall, because obviously the fall colors there will be amazing, so we'll keep it open until the snow flies. Just like at Pollard, we kind of close it after we get our first big snow, and then we're not going out there plowing and dumping salt. So we're gonna be a little flexible on the dates, but we're gonna keep people posted.
Spring of '25.
Yeah, we are planning open spring of '25, and that'll be our first season.
All right, and do we need to add anything to the budget for trail cams, or I don't know that they're super expensive, I don't know.
Good question. Not really. We have purchased some in our department. The cameras themselves, we've got ours honestly at Cabela's locally. They were a couple $100 for the camera, and we pay a cellular subscription for annual fee. Those photos come right to our phones. I mean, we can see exactly what's going on. It's almost like a elevated deer camera with cellular service. They take pictures, they take videos. We have those on some of our outlier trails, and we've actually, I mean, we posted some pictures to the police website when we caught a few people. Only once or twice have we ever, since I've been here, caught anybody doing anything, but we have used those cameras when they were needed.
Okay, and my final question might be just for Supervisor Kersten, and when Clerk Berry was talking about like safety issues back in that area, you would maybe know because of your experience in the police department, but I would think it would be probably safer because you're going to have more use. Right now, there's nobody going back there so on a regular basis. So is that, is my assumption or my thought, is that?
My experience, and I know several neighbors on the south side that have joined the property, and then obviously we have great connections with the Veterans Home. They are excited about this, and believe me, when someone takes a motorized vehicle back there, like a four-wheeler or a motorcycle, just police are called. So it's thoroughly traveled and monitored by the neighbors.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Just some comments I've got. If this is approved, I want to thank the Governor's Office, Senator Hertel, Representative DeBoyer, Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, obviously Karen and Josh, and obviously Attorney Siebert. This agreement was scrutinized by him multiple times, went back and forth, I can say, and that's what's here before you. Just to address the comment, Clerk Berry, we have a full book of property, and yes, we have too much, and anytime you want to come and sit down and let's go over and off some property that we don't need, I'm all ears. So with that being said, I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Treasurer Elliott, to approve item 10D. Clerk Berry?
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Demink didn't have much of a choice on that one with the threat from Trustee Joseph. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Thank you, Josh. Karen. Item 10E.
Item 10E is to approve a recommendation by Supervisor Kersten to approve and sign the 2025 Bassmaster Elite Host Agreement.
Make a motion to approve. Is there any support?
Support.
Treasurer Elliott. Ms. Vanderson?
I did just want to take a moment and give the Parks and Recreation stamp of approval on this one. We hosted in 2023 the previous tournament with Bass. When we take into consideration hosting an event again, we look at attendance, we look at minimal safety concerns, and we look at value added to the community. So those three areas, this event definitely checked the box. Bass as an organization was great to work with, and they were very mindful of our park, of our community, looking to give back and add value to our community as well, which was a great partnership to have. In addition to that partnership, the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce, Macomb County, Detroit Sports Commission, we had several community groups and businesses that came out for this event, and so overall, an absolute value added to the community.
And I just wanted to let everyone know we do have Lisa here from the Anchor Bay Chamber. She'd like to say a few words.
Good evening, Lisa Thomas, Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce. I would just like to say that we appreciate the continued collaboration with the county and with the township and with Detroit Sports Commission for the Bassmaster event. It was a great fundraising event for the chamber and just an overall great community event that we really enjoyed being part of. We worked very well with all of the township staff, and we're totally on board with handling the sponsorship and the vendors and the beverage service again for the event.
I did want to just go over, for the 2023 Bassmaster Elite event, we had 1,200 visitors on Thursday, 3,800 visitors on Friday, 4,900 visitors on Saturday, and 2,900 visitors on Sunday. So an overall 12,800 visitors to Brandenburg Park, which is more than the Bassmaster event has ever had in the state of Michigan. I know it's kind of small, but this just goes over some of the what the community restaurants and area hotels and I believe some of the stores, they all increased their sales over that weekend. So it did benefit most of the retail and restaurants in the community as well. And then Detroit Sports Commission has agreed to pay the host fee for this event, which we are super glad and happy to have them come out to Chesterfield and not have everything in Detroit. So,
Thank you. Questions from the board? Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, hate to kill the vibe. I was really excited about the last agenda item and the dollar amount that we spent, and we spent a lot of time talking about $200 cameras and an $1,800, upkeep. But that project, I think, enhances the community over a long period of time. I know that the success in terms of attendance at the Bassmaster, and I appreciate the financial consideration of a 30% reduction from the staff from the last Bassmaster, but like 30% of what? What was the cost? Without again bringing up old wounds, I don't know that we ever had a definitive after-action assessment of what things cost and the amount of staff. And the area that I was most concerned at, because I was out there in the morning just talking to our public safety team, was the amount of public safety personnel that were camped out at that park for the entire weekend. And the challenges that I think we have when Trustee Anderson and I are talking about emergencies in the township. We were very, very lucky that we didn't have more, but we had a very stressful public safety team with just keeping up with normal calls for service, and I think it could have been much, much worse. So I don't know what a 30% reduction of what is, because I don't know what the original, final determination was, and so that would help to start there. What did we spend, and 30% less than that would be a helpful number to include in this packet. But this is, and I'm perfectly okay with the contract not being here. If the township attorney
the contract was emailed to you?
I'm sorry?
The contract was emailed to you because it's a confidential?
I didn't finish, Karen. I didn't finish. I'm not concerned, as I said, about the contract. That was reviewed by the attorney. What I am concerned about is the cost associated with the personnel that we sent out there. It was all hands on deck. As I recall, a year ago, we had staff from almost every department, which, again, I don't deal with day-to-day operations. That's the supervisor's office. But the public safety was an area that, you know, I was out in the morning, just talking, bringing breakfast, and, you know, it was a massive undertaking in terms of the staff commitment. The dollar amount would be helpful, and you know, if we're going to advertise 30% reduction, what's the original number? What's the 70% then? Thank you.
Any further questions? Any further? Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. If this gets approved, which I'm in favor of hosting it again, and I realize there will be some costs, will the cost of that be included in the budget?
As far as individual departments, yes, there is a cost to it to run the departments and the labor that's there. To what's been stated is, that was our first event. When we had that first event, we had no clue what to expect. We were meeting with the staff from Bassmasters, and honestly, the first event that we had there, we over-prepared. We went way over the top. And now that we've seen, I suspect a very small public safety presence, I suspect a very small fire department participation. We've curtailed quite a bit, and to the point of, yeah, we did, I don't exactly remember, we made a full accounting. I want to say this event, staffing and everything was just under $20,000, and that was with all departments included, staffing, and invoices created from that. A lot of those things we still have, but there were, again, the Anchor Bay Chamber supported most of that operation along with the Detroit Sportsman Commission. So, yep, there's a cost. There will be a cost, but I think the value of bringing something like this back into the township again, now that we have our hand around it and what it means to us,
well,
what it means to the community.
I totally agree, and I'm totally in favor of approving this. The question is, I guess, will the anticipated cost of staffing be so much that we need to place an additional amount in the budget?
I don't
That's
believe
the
so.
question. Right. So it will be covered?
Yeah.
The cost of this will be covered in the budget?
That is correct. That's my assessment as now.
Great, thank you.
Treasurer Elliott?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So, yeah, we've talked about this. Also, I asked the question when the item came up in front of me prior to this is about the staff and labor, and I think that you had told me the same thing earlier today. And so there's necessarily no additional cost to the township, because that is the various events and ongoing is covered. Because I didn't ask this, but now I'm thinking about it. The rest of the costs to this are covered through sponsorships. Am I correct? All right, so you're shaking your head. How does that work, Lisa? Do you mind talking about how that structure works?
So we recruit sponsors through the chamber and through the community, and all the sponsorship dollars are then used to pay for all the activities like the fireworks, the lights, different banners, signs, etc. There's a list here, thank you. Snacks for the volunteers, I don't know, party rental, so some of the tents, I'm assuming, cornhole tournament, etc. So yeah, we covered everything we could with all the sponsorship dollars.
And don't you also bring several like a large group of volunteers? Did I remember seeing?
Yes, the chamber utilizes about 30, at least 30 of our volunteers for the weekend as well.
And those are made up of not just chamber members, but a lot of those folks are residents and business owners here in Chesterfield.
Yes, they're all local business owners or employees of local businesses, or sometimes their families. We always tell them, invite your neighbor, we could use the help. So yes, a lot of Chesterfield residents, and also from New Baltimore as well.
And will the chamber and the township be providing some sort of website or online resources for folks that are coming in and traveling, saying this is where our local hotels, these are the local restaurants? Are we gonna, I know that we did a little bit of that last time, but.
Last year, that was all provided on the county's website. They advertised the event and they had some links. We probably should do a better job with that and have it on the chambers as well. Yes, so that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I think it's important to use this. I think if we're going to talk about, the increase to businesses, I think we should try to make some goals for seeing a little bit even bigger numbers this time as far as us driving, more business to our local business owners. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Trustee Clerk Berry?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Supervisor, you said something in that really makes a lot of sense to me, and I appreciate that. It was an honest statement, and that is, personally, we were in a different place during the first Bassmaster, and I don't want to fly spec this. I agree with you, and it's an honest statement to say, hey, the first go round, we learned a lot, and we can pull back some of the staffing, and we can pull back some of the public safety. We went all in to make sure that we didn't have, and now we know. That to me is the the end of my Q&A on this, and I'm okay with it. I personally, I experienced a different, and as the Bassmaster was rolling out, and then after the Bassmaster, again, perhaps we were in a different place, and I wasn't seeing anything in a very mitigating way, but I can feel my blood pressure going up as board members spoon feed questions to and isn't it true that, and it sounds like we're explaining a magic trick to a kindergarten class. That aggravates me, and what I experienced, and maybe this go around, what we can do is, it seemed, and as I said, the supervisor's comments was that was our first experience with it. We didn't know necessarily about what generators we needed to be here or there, and we did a lot of things that I think, in fairness, is attributed to an event of that magnitude and trying to pull it off. Personally, my difficulty is I think, Josh's term, we get more bang for our buck when we have our Parks and Rec department do big events with families and bounce houses, and I don't know that we need the Bassmasters. I realize that it does shine a very big national spotlight on the township, and we get a lot of politicians, and there'll be a lot of picture taking. That's just not my thing. I like the smaller, I'm sorry? Nothing's wrong with that. If I heard you right, I didn't hear what you said, but no, she said something to you, but that's okay. It's not my style. I like more organic things that our Parks and Rec does, but I'm only one of seven. So, Supervisor, that was the first time. It is a big get in terms of being able to attract, and I think the lake really is a spectacular. I don't fish, but from everything that the competitors and all of the ESPN talk, this is a trophy-rich fishing location. So they, did experience, I think, great success here. And I'll shut up. But I would, as we get closer, like to see an exact. If the chamber's going to reimburse, I would like to see that be maybe a little bit more transparent in this second go-around in terms of what's reported to the board. And I'll shut up. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Berry?
Thank you. Lisa, I just have a question on, I know that the chamber is one of the partners in this event. How much do you anticipate that the chamber is going to be participating? And my next question is, for example, for the North Gratiot Cruise event that I will say partner with, although the Southeast Michigan Chamber pretty much runs that. But historically, they've always built into their budget to pay for our police protection for that event. I don't know if that's still the way that they do it, but they used to. They used to bill them for it. We used to pay for it, which was okay. That's fine. But I was just wondering if maybe the chamber would be willing to cover maybe some of that, or what do you see the chamber being able to contribute or participate, to what degree?
So it would really be hard for me to answer that without knowing how many sponsorship dollars we collect for the event. We paid for what we could pay for. When the sponsorship dollars were done, then that's all we could pay for. Like, we paid for the stages, the bands, the tents, et cetera. But we had plenty of sponsorship dollars to cover all that. But then, like I said, when the money was gone, that was all we could do.
So kind of like the entertainment portion of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, our main responsibility for this event is the beverage service. So we're handling the beer tent sales. So any expense that was related to that direct little area was stuff that we put into our budget. And then sponsorship dollars helped pay for the other event items, like the fireworks, like the light towers, all the signs, the stages, et cetera. Some of the first year we paid for some of the kids' activities.
Because it's not an actual chamber event, correct?
It's not a chamber event, no. We're just one of the partners.
Understood. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any further discussion? Trustee Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. I know a couple of years ago, weather didn't cooperate with us either. I know we had flooding going on around that time. Personally, I don't want to replow everything that Trustee Joseph, he said it quite well. Same concerns I have. And one of the things is some of the, obviously, to me, patented leading questions that were thrown out there to get specific answers, in my opinion. When I talk to our residents after, and that's the way I look at it, that's their park. It's great to have these things that bring a spotlight on us. I guess we're going to have something about one of our bars on Jefferson, or on Gratiot. They redid it. I'm still waiting to watch that one when they came in. I think it's Butcher Block Bar or something. There's supposed to be a program on that eventually on TV or on cable. But I'm concerned in what is in this for our residents. And you know what, just myself, I'm sure there's a survey monkey out there that'll prove me wrong, but I really couldn't get a lot of interest from people. Only one resident told me that was happy with it was that the money that was spent in reconfiguring the park, and especially the boat launches, he says, well, now I can get my boat in because it was dragging on the bottom before that, and that was the plus that I heard on it. It's great to help our businesses, but, okay, I know the votes are here, so you're all set. But I just can't support it for those among other reasons, and I'm wondering what the overtime will be for law enforcement and everything else that, which I don't believe is totally a fair shake with our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Joseph.
I said I was going to shut up, but Trustee Anderson made a comment, and he raises a good issue. When Treasurer Elliott is asking the chamber representative about volunteers and so forth, she says, honestly, we're just one of the sort of sponsors, if you will. But if you want to, you know, like, not to be a complete pirate here, but if you want to do help for business, what do you need the chamber to come in and sell beer when you have sponsors that do the cruise? You have Biggs and some of the other big sponsors. Their business is in beer sales. Does anybody ask the chamber, what do they make when they're selling beer in our park with, you know, the first slide, you have 10,000 residents that come in over the weekend, thirsty beer drinkers, I'm sure, in the mix. If you want to support business, why don't you bring Biggs in and ask them what they could do in terms of handling the concessions? That might be, you know, an interesting topic, because I'd like to know what the chamber recoups from beer sales. Cheers to Chesterfield, Bassmaster, and so forth. So
I don't really have a final number for you, Trustee Joseph. I wasn't prepared for that today. I can tell you that it is a fundraiser for the chamber.
Sure.
And the type of liquor license that we get for an event like this is a special event license that only nonprofits can get. And in the past, the Bassmaster event that has traveled around the county has always partnered with the chamber. So I think it was the natural fit when they asked to move it to Chesterfield to partner with a local chamber. So I think they kind of were just following in those footsteps. But like I said, nonprofits I don't know if a regular business can actually do an event like this. It's probably a whole
I'll
different
bet
kind
you,
of liquor
I'll bet you I
license.
could spend about 15 minutes with the Friends of Chesterfield Police, a nonprofit, who could bring in the staff from Biggs, and we could capture one of those licenses pretty easily. I think we could do that.
Well, that's your choice. I mean, I'm
Sure,
just
thank
telling
you.
you my part of it, so.
Any further questions? Any further questions? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Treasurer Elliott, to approve item 10E. Clerk Berry.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
No.
Trustee Joseph.
No?
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, no.
Item 10F. Thank you, ladies.
Item 10F is to approve a recommendation to purchase and install multiple new playscape areas at Brandenburg Park through Game Time in the amount of $149,898.92 and to allocate ARPA funds of $149,898.92 to this purchase, and to approve additional project costs not to exceed $45,000 and to allocate any remaining ARPA funds up to these costs.
So moved.
Support.
Hello, Michelle.
You can tell that the theme of this evening is collaboration, as we have a lot of different groups coming together to present to this evening. We're fortunate in Chesterfield to be able to work closely with facilities operations, parks and recreation, and working in tandem. The project in front of you has the opportunity to add 2 additional playscapes to Brandenburg Park in addition to that ADA playscape that is there, as well as 3 swing sets as well. It's definitely our most utilized park. The weekends are filled with rentals, and the weekdays are filled with hundreds of families that are utilizing the park for its facilities and for its beautiful space that we have. And so the playscape is definitely a natural feature, and it's where the kids gravitate to. Playgrounds across Chesterfield Township were well established in Chesterfield Township. The problem is when they expire, that's when we lost our planning foot of it. So we have a maintenance plan that goes through each year to year, but in that expiration of playscapes, we need to do some work and catch up for that. We've definitely over the years had this conversation multiple ways to find the best way to replace those end-of-life playscapes. So in front of you, there is a solution to that. There's a grant program that is presented that does a yearly promotion of grant matching funds. And in addition to utilizing those ARPA funds for the remaining fund balance, at Brandenburg, we've been able to do the Brandenburg push of this leg of getting playscapes up to date. So while Brandenburg Park does have that, it's relatively new, that ADA playscape, we need to work on the remainder of the park and bring each of those into a place of desirable play. Again, those playgrounds and swing sets are an item that we hear over and over again, as playgrounds are so important to the community, and safety is a key feature of that for us. It's important for us to provide that safe space for our community. I do want to walk through Stephanie was going to walk through for us the timeline of the project, as well as those specific costs to the township so that we can break down what exactly is within this request for us.
Thank you. So just to give you a little background on how this came about, during the summer, it was an admin meeting. We had a discussion about how to spend about $151,000 of unallocated ARPA funds. And since playscapes were on the suggested list of improvements, the F&O team began researching opportunities for the park. One area that needed to be replaced is the fall protection surface at the ADA playscape seen here. The structure was originally installed in 2016, and the pour-in-place rubber protective ground covering is now past its useful life, as you can see at the bottom of the slide there, and then the other picture where it's pulling up away from the cement. We had quotes obtained to either remove and replace that rubber feature at a cost of $101,000, or remove and replace it with engineered wood fiber, which is otherwise known as certified playground mulch. That cost is on the bottom right and is $29,000. So we looked internally at what it would cost for our facilities team to remove that rubber material and dig down enough to put in 12 inches of engineered wood fiber. Our labor within F&O would cost about $10,386 to remove and install new mulch, and the material cost would be about $2,592. So that would take a total cost of about, $12,978 for the facilities team to do that. So again, $101,000 to remove and replace with like substance, $29,000 to remove and install engineered wood fiber with a contractor, or $12,976 for the F&O team. So due to the significant cost of both, the facilities team will be removing the current fall protection and replacing it with the engineered wood fiber this October after the Boo Bash. So moving on to the playscapes. While researching the playground structures and manufacturers, we found a grant opportunity from Game Time, a lead playground equipment provider. They offer 50 to 100% in matching funds up to $100,000. Our grant application was quickly submitted on August 21st of this year. Sinclair Recreation is a main distributor of Game Time. I reached out to them to see if they could assist the township in providing a scope for Chesterfield's proposed projects in the park. This is a map of Brandenburg Park that you're probably very familiar with. You can see down in the center of the bottom is the ADA playscape, where the facilities team will be replacing the engineered wood fiber this fall. Right above that is a playscape. Currently it has 3 accessible swings. Those swings will maintain in the park, but we do propose to replace that swing set. Next to that, to the right, is proposed a new 2 to 5-year-old play area, like a tot center. And in your bottom right corner, there's an existing playground that is typically geared for 5 to 12-year-old children, and that is proposed to be replaced. So on September 5th, Michelle, myself, and Michael Mullen, the Assistant Director of Facilities and Operation, met on site with Rich Sinclair. We discussed improvements and updates to the current play structures and the areas outlined here. And I am pleased to announce that on September 6th, the township was notified they were recipients of up to $100,000 in matching grant funds on qualified structures. So that was a huge win for us. So I'll go through a couple of slides here. You'll see this is the current playscape. As you see over near Pavilion D, this is one that we are looking to replace, kind of like for like, a play structure to climb on and swings. This is the proposed new area. It covers the same footprint, pretty much, of what was existing there. And I'd like to point your attention to some of the swings within those 3 bays there. One of the swing sets is like a mom and me type swing, where an adult can sit and put a child in and go swing face to face. The other bays are where we'd put an adaptable swing and toddler swings in there. So those swing bays can house all those kinds of swings. This is just another viewing of it. This is the footprint. As you can see, it's right on top of the other footprint. The next play area would be replacing this mixed age group, 3 swing sets and some monkey bars. And we would put that as our tot center, which would kind of service 2 to 5-year-old children. Of course, any age child could play on it, but it is geared for the younger ones too, with the play equipment you can see here. Again, the swing set, all contained in one area, and that's the footprint. Sometimes you look at the certified wood mulch and you think, why is there so much mulch? But you can see that for safe play, there is a radius around some of those areas that need to be protected and can't overlap. This is the current play structure by our ADA, swing structure by the ADA, and we will replace that with a nicer swing set for all age groups. So this is the bottom line of the invoice that we got. The grant, you can see, is actually a discount to our invoice. So with the qualified purchases that we have, we save $64,132, which takes the township's total cost to $149,898. And we had the $151,000 in ARPA funds that we were looking to stay within. That price also included my deal pricing. So some of the other expenses that aren't included in the manufacturer's price, you see on the screen. Our idea with the cement border around the 3 new playscape areas and swing sets is to provide a smooth travel surface for wheelchairs, strollers, as well as creating a solid border for the 12 inches of engineered wood fiber that we have to place in there. There's $10,000 in contingency funds. We will be using that for better drainage in those areas, and we won't know the cost to that until we really get in and start removing those current structures. Some other township costs, when you look at the staff, like we have our facilities and operations team doing a lot of the work. We will have our staff remove and dispose of all of the equipment that is to be replaced. We estimate that at a cost of $6,209. And then we'll also use the facilities team to install the new engineered wood fiber throughout those playscapes, and we estimate that to be about $4,234 for a total of $10,443 from our department costs. And if you'd like to see a breakdown of hours, I have that on all of our time. So the request in front of you today is to purchase the playground structures and the installation of $149,898 and to use the ARPA funds to offset that cost. I just want to clarify that other $45,000 that we're asking for, it would be a general fund expense unless there are additional ARPA funds to be used. So at this time of the year, we're really pushing to get the rest of our projects done, quotes in, that are earmarked for ARPA funds. So as some of those may come in under budget and create an excess even of a couple $1,000s, we're just asking for those to be allocated to this project.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Trustee Anderson.
Not a question, but finally an expenditure using ARPA funds too that'll benefit our families and our kids. Thank you.
Trustee Joseph.
Thank you. I went through the packet, and I really do appreciate the thoroughness and the utilization of game time. They're, from what I could tell, an industry leader in terms of modern playground equipment and the consideration that you gave to sort of the surrounding and the access points for, ADA. I was wondering, looking at some of the actual playground equipment, and it's come a long way since I was on the playground, and I didn't see in any of the game time offerings that spinny wheel of death that was all rusted out that we would launch each other into, and that was seen as like an upgrade. When I was a kid, I don't know, Trustee Anderson, I think he played on like decommissioned military armament and things. I don't know what you did, but the cost associated with this playground equipment does take into consideration the immense safety precautions that go with it. Game Time also has some features for special needs kids, and I'm wondering if we could maybe look at incorporating some of that. I have a neighbor who has a special needs child, and they spend a considerable amount of time. Mom and dad have, over the years, both can't work outside of the home. They are very, very dedicated parents, and to provide them with some, playground equipment that it's, special needs I'm wondering if we could maybe do that in this purchase, and if that's an option.
If I can interject real quick, we've been looking at that playscape and those playgrounds. In fact, Karen has spent a lot of time traveling to Clinton Township to mirror what they had. It's on our radar. We're looking at it. It's very expensive, but it wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't considered in this, but the bigger plan is that, yes, a special needs playscape will be on the drawing board and plan.
You went right where I was going, because I think we were at the same event when an organization came forward and donated some playground equipment, and that's what got me thinking on this. I couldn't see the price points. I knew that it was costly, but is it, Mr. Supervisor, is it kind of a system where it's, you can't integrate pieces of, you know, special needs, you know, I'm not sure, I'm sure I'm not using the proper terminology, but like this is an encapsulated sort of unit, this is a package sort of deal, and you can't just, you know, a la carte add special needs. You're talking about maybe a special needs playscape system, and that's kind of on the horizon, I guess, is what, okay. Thank you.
And I just want to point out that Wheel of Death that you talk about, the modern day wheel is at the bottom of your screen. It probably doesn't go as fast as it did back in the day, but that was one of the features. And it's
I was
the
like Mach
safer-
10 on
it's
mine,
the-
you know, maybe it was the weight, I don't know, but
It's
it
the
was
safer
rough.
version.
Yes, got it, thank you.
One thing that this does all encompass is 6 essential elements of play, which is swinging, sliding, spinning, climbing, balancing, and brachiating, which is swinging from monkey bars. So there were a lot of things that go into the thought of these playscapes, incorporating everything like that. And when we look now, knowing that this grant is available year after year, this is its 10th year it's been in place, now we can better plan for our playscapes because, like I said, we just started looking this summer to really do something with the rest of the ARPA funds as to it relates to playscapes. So now we can really work throughout the year, noting that this could be an opportunity for us to grab again for our other parks.
Well, this is a great start, and as Trustee I'm sorry, Supervisor Kersten, but as Trustee Anderson said, this was the one ARPA fund purchase that stands out that really does just return directly to, you know, residents. But I just had one final comment on that spinny thing. For me, I had when I got out of the orthopedic, you know, in the cast, I was able to make some physics. You know, when you sit in the center and they spin, it seemed like I was safe, and then it wasn't until I ventured to the outer perimeter and like the centrifugal force lesson that was taught under the crunching of the bones. So I'm glad to see that that's not a risk factor with the new equipment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Clerk Barry?
Thank you. Actually, Trustee Joseph asked my question because I think we were all at that event where that particular piece of equipment was donated, and I was going to say, can we get a hold of one of those? Because, you know, there's just so many kids that can't participate because the typical ADA compliant, even though it may be ADA compliant, it's still not usable for them, and we don't want anybody waiting on the sidelines watching and not being able to participate. So maybe reaching out to that particular entity and see if we can't maybe get something donated to that effect also. But the grant, I have a question about that. I didn't see any grant paperwork with it. I'm just curious, is that grant, that the matching grant that we were awarded, is that useful for any vendor we choose, or does it have to be used with this one?
This is on a very tight timeline. So what you see here is that, like I said, we have Omnia pricing, My Deal pricing, and the grant is shown as a discount here. So we don't have to wait for funds to come back. We don't outlay the funds and then wait for it to come back. It's a direct discount right off of our bottom line.
So would that be the case? You were saying in future years we can plan for more things. Will we be able to have the time then next year to maybe maybe put an RFP out on this? I mean, I don't have a particular opposition to this vendor, but I'll just be very honest with you. To me, this smacks of kind of like just that, exactly that. they said it's a grant, it's really a discount. If you buy today and write us a check for $102,198.92, by October 25th, you're going to get this great deal. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but is it truly a grant, or is it just this vendor is coming to us and saying, hey, we're going to give you a great discount if you buy today?
Well, this is the manufacturer that is offering the grant. So that's why I wanted to include the flyer that I came across.
Yeah.
Because it says it's a playground grant, and when you ask about the actual representative that we worked with, Sinclair Recreation, since they're using my deal pricing, Omnia pricing that's vetted throughout the state, that's the same price, that those contracts are awarded at certain prices. So if in essence, it's supposed to work, if I go to another vendor to buy the same thing, I would get the same price.
Okay, so you'll have in the same grant amount and everything's the same, okay.
Yes, and the reason you don't see, we were awarded up to $100,000, but there are some items in there that don't qualify for their grant.
Yeah.
We added things in there to make it as inclusive as we could.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I think it's a good expenditure. I just wanted to clarify some of those details for when we move into the future in acquiring some other things, because, and the only reason I ask is because I've been exposed to that type of an arrangement. I don't want to say that type of a deal, in the elections world, and we've got limited people that we can buy from, but it's kind of like, okay, well, we're going to give you this deal, but you got to buy it by this time, or you have to buy this much, and then we're trying to put together relationships with other communities and trying to do a buy one get one, all this kind of stuff. So, and at the end of the day, what I found with my deal pricing too, that's a guaranteed price, but it's almost never my best price. But that's just been my experience. It could be very different here. I just wanted to ask those questions now so I had a better understanding, and I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you. Stephanie, can you explain what engineered wood fiber is? As you were talking about it, I actually don't know that I have any point of reference.
Yes, it's not a term that I usually use in my day-to-day vocabulary, but engineered wood fiber is certified playground mulch. So the mulch that we see in these playgrounds is actually strategic. It has to be certain woods, it has to be certain densities, sizes, it can't be too small, it can't be too big. There are only 3 people that are certified in the state of Michigan to produce this certified playground mulch. So they go through a rigorous process of keeping their certifications up and making sure that they provide the product that they should be providing. And engineered wood fiber is also ADA accessible. It provides fall protection, but it also provides for a more solid surface and compacting, not compromising safety in that wood fiber.
What would be estimated date that this project would begin?
Spring of '25. So first, as soon as the facilities team can get in there, we'll be prepping the area, and like I said, with drainage, removing some of the old equipment, and then we'll be scheduling with the company to come in and install. So hopefully.
So at Brandenburg Park, we already currently have some ADA swings, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And will those all stay in that location that they have, or will we, because now you have that pathway that's going over by this one, and I know that was the issue with the ADA swings, right? We had to have those where they could be accessible via wheelchair, and we did, the one place that all of those ADA swings are at is the only place that we have that was accessible via wheelchair. Now that you're going to have accessibility at this, will there be an ADA swing at this location as well?
The plan is to put one of those 3 ADAs in the new 3, one in each of the 3 bays, and that will help too with the playscape that's going in over by Pavilion D. That's the thought. You can take that paved path and then take that paved path around the area as well. So yes, you'll have access to one swing in each of those sections.
So, and lastly, I just want to tell you, excellent, thorough presentation, fantastic work on the grant discovery in a very short period of time and utilizing that. You have thought of everything. I know that there was a lot of comments, a lot of things that you had heard all of those things and took them into consideration. I noticed. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the border, having that so that it's accessible for you know, people to come up with their children in strollers and in wheelchairs is super important. The Mommy and Me swings, I know that a lot of the moms are leaving the community because we didn't have any of those and going outside of the community so that they can have access to those. And I just want to tell you, and also I thought you did a good job of explaining the My Deal, which was one of the questions I was going to ask you to explain that. And before I was able to ask that, you had already answered. So thank you very much for a very quality presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? I have a motion by trustee Joseph, supported by treasurer Elliott, to approve item 10F. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 10G.
Item 10G is to approve a request by the supervisor to purchase the Laserfish self-hosted subscription license for completion of the electronic document management project for a total cost not to exceed $60,000 with an annual fee of $38,570.
So moved.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to, trustee Joseph, was that you?
Yeah, I don't know the feedback.
Yeah, I think it's my mic. I'll support that. Trustee Joseph, supported by Supervisor Kersten. Karen and Paul.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So let's start with a little refresher course real quick. For the board and the uninitiated and public, what is Laserfish? Laserfish at its core is a digital records management system designed to help organizations store, organize, and retrieve documents and files more efficiently. The easier to understand version of that is that it's, imagine a huge filing cabinet that is capable of storing important documents, forms, emails, images, pretty much any type of file in a secure and easily accessible way. But instead, this filing cabinet is virtual and the files are all digital, which in turn reduces our reliance on paper and physical space for storage. So why are we requesting funding for upgrades and advanced training for this system? This software has fallen about 6 versions behind since it was implemented in 2015. So it's become increasingly buggy, lacking in functionality. It's making it increasingly difficult for township staff and especially our fairly new records coordinator to perform her core job duties and do them efficiently. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Questions or comments? Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you. I support this. I think we need to upgrade to that level. But in the executive summary, it says that staff or other resources are not required. Wouldn't there be staff training and things like that that would go into using this? Learning about the the upgraded software and how to use it?
So, Paul, you want to address it? There's going to be staff required, but this
additional, I think it refers to additional staff not required, but this is going to be handled mostly by IT and the records coordinator with the help, and IT includes not just myself, but Porter and Black, our IT service provider, because they have a lot of extensive programming experience to lend to this. So we won't be requiring a lot of extra staff from other departments to be involved in this project.
Okay, I would take it to mean yes, and a whole bunch of everybody needs to be trained in it so we can use it going forward for every last transaction we make. So thank you.
You're correct. Thank you.
I just want
Treasurer
to
Elliott.
let Trustee Fosberg know, we do have identified some individuals from each key department that we will have training as part of this.
Thank you. Treasurer Elliott?
Thank you. I'm in support of this. Clerk Barry and I spoke today about these exact issues, and this is long overdue. Thank you for doing this work. I'm looking forward to rolling our sleeves up and getting this moving forward, and getting everything digitized and in the Laserfish system. So thank you for the work on that.
Thank you. Any further comments? I have a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve item 10G. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Demink. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 10H.
Item 10H is approve a request by Supervisor Kersten to enter into a 5-year contract with Andrews Technology for a time and attendance management system that integrates with BSNA. The first year includes a one-time implementation cost totaling $44,230. Each consecutive year's cost will be a total not to exceed $23,590.
Very simply, this is, I've told you about this, has been coming, I've been planning on it. I'm sorry. Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve the
Support.
request. Is there any support? Treasurer Elliott? As I said, I've been working on this for some time. I was hoping to have the HR department bring this in and install it some time ago. We've been researching this and looking at it. This is simply an automated time and attendance system. Currently, our time and attendance system is done by time card and timesheet, as you all know. That's done almost township-wide for all employees. What this program and service does is it automates that. It's electronic. There's several ways that you can punch in and punch out. There were versions of it in different formats in the past. At DPW, it was never just deployed throughout the township. Public Safety's had an automated time and attendance system in place for 20-plus years. And we're simply migrating that technology over here to the township. This interface is a standalone platform, although it interfaces with BSNA directly, so our checks, our manual checks, our payroll checks, are all issued through BSNA. This interfaces with this time and attendance. I would believe that most of you that work either at county government or other municipalities, this is similar to those systems in place. And there's several modules that help us with this. Again, I think this is long overdue, just another piece of technology that's trying to streamline here, and it also frees up some of our workspace workers to do other important tasks. So that's the request. I'll take any questions if there are any, but it's pretty straightforward. It's I don't think it's unlike anything similar that you may not have at your current employer. Questions? Treasurer Elliott?
Thank you. So there was a comment earlier that BSNA doesn't work, and what we had purchased a few years back is called BSNA Cloud. We've had BSNA in the township, and it truly is just about the only system that is available to do all of the functions that we do in municipal government. And the BSNA Cloud had some issues at first because it was a new technology, and we had some different things that needed to be worked out that maybe weren't thought through, and that the developers had to correct. Most of those things have already been corrected from the developers, and you're starting to see pretty much all of the communities statewide are now transferring to BSNA technology. One of the things that the cloud has done is that it allows for the different modules, and modules are used, different modules are used for each different department. And what happens is those, where we were not able to communicate through from one software module to another. Now we're able to do that, which makes it so that we can do something like this time and attendance. Before we do this, and currently what we're doing is we have pieces of paper, and we have pieces of paper that are floating around for every employee to track time and attendance. And at this point, what I think this request, the most important part of that request is be able to get that so we can track it, you know, on an ongoing basis and not have pieces of paper, but you have that tied into the HR module. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk Berry.
Thank you. Just to put in my 2 cents on this, I have been waiting for this for a dozen years. When I first got here 12 years ago, I couldn't believe they did everything in triplicate. Even 12 years ago, that was already 10 years out of phase. People weren't doing things with triplicate forms. And I couldn't believe it literally had to go from the hands of one person to another person, then hand it off to another person, and then he had to wait for it to come back. And it was just, it was insanity. And I have implored every supervisor that I worked with since then to please modernize us. And I said, nobody's done this for 10 years at least. And so this is something that we spend a ridiculous amount of time dealing with, and this will be a huge efficiency inside our management of our staff. And I'm very excited to see this on the agenda. I thank the supervisor for finally getting this done because it was something that I've been asking for a long time. And I greatly, greatly appreciate the board's support on this from being, you know, a department head myself. It was really going to be a tremendous asset for us and well worth the cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, I just was curious. I know just in talking with you when you were public safety and police chief, we've actually had some systems that other businesses and we've had some systems that other businesses and municipalities use, and we still have that, you know, that system where you're putting things in the cigar box and the paper and all that. I get it. From the outside looking in, and I don't do day to day, you have a system that all things have to run through one department or one person, and without getting too inside, I think the reliance on that individual was a barrier because you couldn't have departments without going through that department, through that individual. Does this system, and I don't know BS&A extremely well, but the county we use, they just brought in a pretty massive changeover. It's called Workday, and each employee, you know, whatever level you're on, we input our request for time off, and we're responsible for managing you know, our banks, and everything is recorded so each employee can log in and see you know, how much PTO, or does this system afford that, or is it still, it does? And the learning curve wasn't all that like difficult because it's, you know, it's made for people that aren't necessarily in the IT world to be able to navigate. It's very user friendly with a little. Does it bypass that I don't know what you call it,
There's a hierarchy in the system. So your employees report to the managers report to the department heads then submit to payroll approves it. There's checks and balances all along the way.
I guess where I'm going is like I know the desire to try to run this through HR, which I agree with, because it's a heavier HR function than it is a finance function. But you've been really system-wise for the 12 years you've been talking about it. It seems to go through finance like that. Was the major. Does this sort of integrate the other departments and make it, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
There are several layers that have to be approved
Sure.
before it gets there. Now, finance will be a part of it.
Of course.
Payroll will be a part of it, but there
Yeah.
will be ultimate approvals on it. And again, if you're familiar with public safety, it mirrors that. And what I'll tell you is, in researching this, you know, time and attendance system electronically, they're all pretty much the same. They're like there's some functionality to it. The key thing here, and in all technology moving forward, just as a statement, is we have to get to a single platform, or at least a platform that
Yeah.
others integrate with, and BSNA is that platform, and this integrates with it, so.
Right, thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions? There's a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Treasurer Elliott, to approve item 10H. Clerk Berry.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
I think it's my mic.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 11, addendums, there are none. Item 12, public comments. There is a 3-minute time limit for public comments. Again, if you would, please state your name for the record. It is not required. The mic is open.
Name's Joe Kadich, I live on Sutton. Reason I'm here is because all of this money that's being spent, a lot of it on Parks and Rec. And Parks and Rec, you don't pay a millage for Parks and Rec, yet a lot of money has been spent over the last number of years. And I think a lot of it has been spent at the expense of the people that pay into the sewer and water department. Now, there's about $2 million a year approximately classified as depreciation, but it's into the budget, and it was put there so that the old sewer lines could be replaced on a regular basis, pumps can be replaced and everything else. We've done nothing with that money. And it's not accumulated, it's not in the enterprise fund, it hasn't grown, and it's gone someplace. And that's why I brought up about the BSNA, is because people are able to go through and use the money from that fund, from the sewer and water fund, to fund other things. With the BNSA, if run properly, it would track everything. Who originated, what project it's coming from, who's working on it, the amount of money that's being spent for utilities, and it would make sure that that money was spent from the department that funded it. The other thing is you've not done anything about it, and hanging out there, from what I can, just off the top of my head, there's about $40 million worth of sewer and water projects out there that aren't funded. You got $10 million of the $15 million bond that's going to be charged back to the sewer and water department, which is probably why you've not had a new budget reconciliation as to what's happened there. But you're doing all of this, and you're using money that should be gone to the, basically replacing and upgrading the sewer and water department, and nobody's saying anything about it. That's the problem I have here. Everybody sits there like, you know, it's okay. And it really came home, like I said, when they redid the street on Sutton, and you did nothing about replacing that old line beforehand, and they replaced it over that thing, so now you're going to have to replace, or somebody's going to have to replace the thing down the line, tear up half the street, and then replace the street. It's really, it's criminal as to what the hell you've done with that sewer and water department. And I hope people, you know, you're all up for re-election here. He's going to get re-elected. Elliott's going to get re-elected. There's nobody opposing him. But we need to put 4 people on the...
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Hi, Christina Ross. I just wanted to express the joy of the passing of 10F. Especially thank you, Mr. Joseph, for bringing up the special needs aspect of that. I want to say that I appreciate the Parks and Rec for including Brandenburg for updates. I myself, as a parent to young children, take my kids elsewhere. Sterling Heights, Lenox, New Baltimore, you name it, any place that has a newer playground set. I climb through these structures with my kids. One of my children is nonverbal, so I'm crawling through these structures with them. Sometimes they are a little bit dirty, but other than that, I mean, the bugs and all that stuff, you anticipate being next to the water. But I really appreciate you guys bringing this and being very inclusive to the special needs community. Sorry, I hate public speaking. I just want to say that I appreciate the consideration and inclusion for all kids. So.
Any further comments? Any further comments? I'll bring it back up to the board. Board comments. Trustee Anderson.
Well, we're in the season of trunk or treat. Halloween's a couple weeks away. Just be careful out there for the little ones like we should be all the time. Thank you.
Trustee Deming. You with me still? Trustee Joseph.
I think we made a mistake with the comfort level of these chairs, Mr. Kersten. They're a little too comfortable. I spent some time yesterday down in St. Clair Shores. I attended their board meeting because there was an issue that happened in St. Clair Shores that I think impacts the entire county. It had to do with, if you follow the news, the alleged election fraud. The primary involved individuals who allegedly voted twice. The facts of the case were limited to the general public, but in essence, the voters showed up at their precinct, requested to spoil their absentee ballot, and were issued new ballots. The problem is that their ballots had already gone through the tabulator, and the election workers in error gave them additional ballots, which they processed, and their count showed 4 overvotes. So in an investigation, they realized what had happened. They turned it over to their local authorities, and the county prosecutor reviewed the case and felt that there was no criminal intent and declined to pursue charges. Last Friday, the Attorney General, in what the mayor of St. Clair Shores referred to as political theater, charged 7 individuals, the 4 voters and 3 election workers, with 4- and 5-year felonies, and then in a circus-like press conference berated County Prosecutor Pete Lucido for not knowing the law and so forth. And almost on cue, Mr. Lucido's opponent posted on her social media, and a countywide text went out soliciting contributions to her campaign to bring a competent prosecutor on board. The entire St. Clair Shores board railed against the circus-like performance, and I had followed the event over the weekend and was also very, very disgusted. When I started to investigate the level of really orchestrated political nonsense that was going on with this particular case, I was concerned for our voters, and our election and the changes in the election process have divided our board with trying to deal with the costs associated with 9 days of early voting, how to keep those ballots safe, how to keep additional staff at these voting locations, and to know that most of our election workers are senior citizens that in essence volunteer their time. They don't get paid a tremendous amount. And now, political season is ugly, and in Macomb County, it's a lot of times a rolling ball of butcher's knives. And we, I'm sorry, I'll finish quickly, but we sometimes go at each other very, very hard. And I think the public sort of becomes tone deaf to, you know, maybe I have something to say about Trustee Demink, he has something, that you chalk that up to politics. But when civilians sort of get brought in to the equation, 74-year-old woman who had worked 1 day as an election worker, that was her first day, hands in error a ballot back, and then a candidate, Ms. Hines in this case, attempts to solicit you know, contributions, you realize that we're now at a much uglier level in our county and maybe even in our country where that level of political theater, as Mayor Walby called it last night, it sends shockwaves through the municipal clerks and the ability to bring in employees. And I would just like to say to our board, I know that, Clerk Barry, you spend a tremendous amount of time trying to train our election workers, but I would like to make an honest request of the board. Should we find ourselves in a situation where a poll worker is facing erroneous charges from a politically motivated AG or anywhere else, that we would dedicate the resources to support our people in the same way we would any other township employee. And we must make that commitment to them or face the risk of not having enough volunteers or low-paid election workers to do it. What we saw in St. Clair Shores was orchestrated. It was ugly. It's the worst kind of political hackery, if you will, and we must call that out, and we must do, as elected officials here, everything we can to support our election workers moving forward. Thank you.
Trustee Vosberg?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I've got 4 things I wanted to bring up. One is congratulations to Chaplain Kim Fleece. She will be a great asset and help to our public safety employees. And second, we approved a playground and improvements for our children in our township. Third, we approved the expansion of bike and hike trails that will be available for all ages who like to hike and bike. And lastly, the fishing event. It's an international event if you include Canadian participants, and it's something that shows off our township and one of our greatest assets, Lake St. Clair. And it's an event for all of our residents and all of our neighbors. Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you. Want to say thank you to the staff and everybody who went in and is identifying the retention and detention ponds. It's exciting to see that being addressed and finally being managed properly. I know that that when Supervisor Kersten first came into office, I believe within the first month, he started asking questions and digging into that, and I can that along with many things that we're seeing finally coming together tonight has been very exciting, and the cooperation of this board, the communication tonight has been excellent, and I want to thank the board for that. I want to say that for the management staff, your presentations tonight were thorough. They answered questions. You thought about the audience. You thought about what kinds of questions we were going to be asking from the board. And I want to tell you I appreciate that, and excellent work on your part. Keep it up. And I have known Chaplain Kim Fleece for many years, and that is a great addition to the township. She is the wife of Pastor Angelo Fleece of the Rock. I do not attend the Rock, but I had in the past. And she has done a fantastic job, and she'll bring some really nice, I think, kind words and encouragement and a lot of good things to our police department. I also would like to remind everybody the 10/19 Cleanup Day participation. Please get the word out, help us get the word out, and let's really show the love for our community and come together during this time over that. And then lastly, as we leave our offices today and then we wake up tomorrow, I will personally be praying for the residents of Florida as they are facing devastation and a crisis. And if for those of you who are people who either have homes in Florida that are residents here in Chesterfield, you know, we are with you, and we are here at the township more than willing to. Please let us know if there's anything that you need. Thank you.
Clerk Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. A couple of things. I had to take a couple of regretful no votes tonight, but I am kind of at my wit's end paying for things that the county pays for. They don't hesitate to tell us if we take ownership of something, we have to pay for it, but yet they own something and they still want us to pay for it. So I understand the grant. I think it was good. I understand the project. I'm not opposed to that. I just want to make a statement that, you know, if the county wants it one way, they got to have it the other way too. So if they want to start sharing the cost of some of our infrastructure that we've taken on, then maybe we'll talk about doing something with them too. But I just think that they own the road, they should maintain the road. So I'm like Trustee Joseph, he had someone to answer for when he came home too. I'm going to hear it from my son. He'll probably be participating as a contestant in the Bassmaster Tournament. He's an avid fisherman, and his team has got a sponsorship for that event, so he'll be competing. So he's not going to like it that I voted no. And the only reason I did is that I would like to see, and Trustee Joseph touched on it, I would really like to see the involvement of more of our local businesses, and not just the ones that pay chamber dues, the ones who either are participating in other chambers or you know, I'd like to see some, so now that we're going to have this event, I'll be fully supportive, but I'd like to hopefully see where we can integrate some more local elements that maybe are folks who don't necessarily participate in a particular chamber, and some of the nonprofits also that we have in the township that should also have an opportunity to fundraise there as well. So maybe make it a little more inclusive. With regards to, I'd like to address just very quickly in the last minute, Trustee Joseph also brought up the issue that happened in St. Clair Shores. So a couple of things. He's absolutely right. We've already seen fallout from that. All clerks are. People are starting to say, I'm not going to work the election. I'm not going to risk that because I made an honest mistake. And mistakes happen, human error occurs. I can tell you that Chesterfield Township does an internal audit after every election. Every municipality, every clerk is required to do there are 3 state audits of each election. They're required by law. However, ever since I became clerk for at least the last 10 years, we have instituted our own internal audit after every single election. It's not required and not everybody does it, but I saw it as a best practice, so I started implementing it. I can assure the board as well as the members of the public that Chesterfield Township had no out-of-balance precincts in August, and we had no duplicate voters because we already did audits, and we would have caught that in our audit. So we have no duplicate voters. We did not have any kind of situations that have happened in St. Clair Shores, and we haven't, at least in the last 10 years. So I appreciate that, and yes, pray for everyone in Florida. We have a lot of friends and family down there ourselves, and it's a scary, scary time down there. I've been down there for over 30 years, and this is the first time that they're scared and evacuated. So please pray for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Act 51 is a roadway money, and it's headed up by the state and the county. We can not be happy about it however we want. In conversations with the Road Commission, they have programs available, and it's a match or a split or an SAD. That is just the way their program rolls out. And until they get funding that rolls down into our township, we're pretty much we're at their will. If the board chooses not to participate, then that's fine with me. There are several areas that, including 24 Mile Road and Baker, that residents are wanting paved along with 24 Mile Road. So we do have to have those conversations with the Road Commission, and that their participation plans are their participation plans. We're either in or we're out. You can't come to the podium and say criminal. If you think that there's something criminal, you have an obligation to act, and that would be calling the prosecutor, the attorney general. You don't get to come to the podium and just make a wild allegation about misspent money, because nothing has been misspent.
Yeah, that's agreed.
So if you're gonna say it, back it up. I'm tired of hearing that. Nobody's misappropriating residents' funds here. And it'll never happen under my watch, and I'm sure every trustee and elected official will say the exact same thing. Please stop saying it. As far as your road, we've told you several times, the water and sewer lines under your roadway are so old they should have been replaced 30 years ago. We will abandon those lines when we get to that project. They will be dug in the proper location in the right-of-way. The capping and service of that road right now is a road commission project, and we've discussed it with them, and it's been relayed to you also on several occasions. Thank you for the park design, and like the resident spoke, we're not done. We have several properties that have been discussed here that the township owns that are just underutilized or we need to get out of our inventory, period. We've begun to focus on Connie Bowles Park, and also in the next 24 months, I hope you'll see the same proposals at Pollard Park and a lot of improvements in there, including walkways. What I would ask every single one of you to do is walk around the Township Hall here during a nice day. This pathway project that we've done out back here is amazing, and hopefully the grading resolves, again, year-long's issue that should have been addressed back then, we're taking care of now. But I'm very excited for that in the spring. You've heard mentioned tonight, again, Gates, Pollard, Brandenburg Park. We are having a discussion of how do we account traffic and how do we increase user revenue and numbers at Brandenburg Park. If you know, our staff abandons the park and the gates are left open and there's still users there. There has to be some sort of accountability, whether the board, and I'll present to it probably in the spring, some sort of fee structure or oppose the fee structure to Brandenburg Park. But I think the residents have paid for that park for years, and I think that there needs to be a discussion as to what those fees look like moving forward. Just a few more minutes. Sewer and water replacement programs, you will see in 2025, we are going to add some sewer replacement projects. We are focusing on areas of data. The township has long utilized a GIS system where they've tracked data, and we've gone back almost 20 years, and we are now able to, and in a public fashion, a public-facing fashion, to show where those water mains are, how often they occur, what the size is, and we're working towards that. That'll be on a single platform, not only available to department heads, but also to the public moving forward. That is a GIS discussion that we're having now. My hope is to bring some of that, those requests back to the board. With that being said, Trustee Joseph, our election workers are employees, and they'll deserve, if anything negative happens or bad happens, they will be rightfully defended. And I want to thank the department heads that came tonight, as everybody said. Very, very clean presentations, and my hope moving forward when department heads or department individuals are presenting, you will get the similar, thoroughly vetted presentation, and it'll be transparent and open for discussion by the board. So with that being said, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Clerk Barry, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?